Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get us going. Chris, are we on all of our platforms?
We are all good.
All righty. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Cohasset Select Board meeting. It is Tuesday, December 1st at 7 p.m. We are conducting tonight's meeting on the Zoom platform. It is also being live streamed on Cohasset 143 TV and on Cohasset's Facebook page. The public is invited to participate on the Zoom platform, which can be accessed using the link provided at the top of the posted agenda for tonight's meeting. Please note that comments will not be monitored on the other forums, that being Facebook and Cohasset 143 TV. Members of the board and other scheduled participants will be able to participate when called on by the chair. Board members will be able to ask questions of any participant, and all votes taken at this meeting will be by roll call. Again, members of the public who wish to ask questions are asked to utilize the question and answer feature on Zoom, and please type in your name, full name, and address for the public record. We will review the questions and direct them to the appropriate participant for a response during the agenda. And one of the first things on our agenda is public comment period. And we will recognize people at that time. This meeting is also being recorded and will be available for later viewing on Cohasset 143 TV. So I've taken care of that part of business. And I will ask for a roll call vote to get us into open session.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans here.
Diane Kennedy here.
Paul Schubert here.
Harry Thompson here.
And then I'd like to invite people to do the Pledge of Allegiance if you'd like to join us. Jack has the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. So if there's anyone here, we have a number of attendees. If you have something you would like to bring up in public comment, Carrie's monitoring that. If you can, Carrie, is there anybody?
Yep, we have one question from Michael Scary about Treats Pond Drainage Project and if that could be put on the agenda for our next meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. If you wouldn't mind just typing for the public record your address, thank you. And in fact, we will be addressing that matter at a future and I think our next meeting. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Any other public comment?
Don't see any, but I'll keep monitoring.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So we'll just continue, and because we jump into this, and I recognize sometimes the format is a little tricky for people, if we have public comment after the first matter in the agenda, we'll go back to that. And the next item on the agenda, which is very exciting, is an introduction of a new employee, the Director of Permits and Inspections / Building Commissioner, that's quite a mouthful, is John Hallen, who's joining us. And Chris, if you would like to formally introduce him. And
Thank you, Diane. So I'm very excited to introduce everyone to John Hallen, who's in the center of the square right now. If you, your game show set up on your computer. John is joining us from Hingham, where he's been a local building inspector for 5 years. And before that, co-ran a family construction company for many years. He is a longtime Situate residents that now live in Hingham, where he was on the Zoning Board of Appeals, including a term as chair. He was on the Community Preservation Committee as well, including a term as chair. So John's seen it from the construction side, from the government side, from the zoning side. He was selected after a long search, which included, among others, the chair of the Planning Commission, Amy Glassmeyer, and others. So we had a nice wide open search process. We interviewed a lot of good candidates, and John ended up on top. Welcome aboard, John. And if you'd like to introduce yourself to the board.
No, well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate the warm welcome. Yes, we started Monday, and it seemed to go pretty well. We've got a chance to meet some of the players. We do have the retiring commissioner helping me out for this month, so he's kind of showing me some of the ropes, some of the people playing, and I've had a chance to meet some of those, set up email, and actually have the zoning meeting later on tonight, so get a chance to get my fingers around that as well. So it's been a good start.
good 2 days right after the holidays. So,
Yeah.
and so you have a zoning ZBA meeting tonight.
Yes.
Wow, that's great. Well, welcome aboard. Did any of the board members have any questions? And
Welcome, John. We're happy to have you.
Well, thank you.
Welcome, John. Welcome aboard.
All right. Thank you, Jack.
You've got some big shoes to fill, and we've got a lot of big projects coming up. So good luck. Good to have you, John.
Well,
Thanks.
thanks.
Hey, John, good to have you on board. One question that I just, not so much of an answer now, but we've recently had some pretty interesting situations in which there have been pretty blatant violations of various things, including the large home review process. And in matters of those, how would you handle that where there's really just been a blatant violation of the building permit, or a situation in which some of the other conservation requirements are not being followed up? I mean, this is an issue that I'm hearing from a lot of people in town, and I think they're looking forward to some aggressive enforcement of the laws that are in place.
Yeah, I think probably one of the first things we'll do is connect that to the building permit process, so that the information, if it's a stormwater management project, that has to have those plans in with the permit, so that during the building process, the inspections could take place then, so that it's not something that's done at the end. So I think that's the best way, so we see if it's done early in the process rather than being looked over or not managed in. So I think if we keep those different points in there, whether it's from conservation or again planning with the stormwater, or any of those type of restrictions, if we have it in early as part of the building permit process, I think it's going to help us to control it and keep an eye on it.
Would you, in a situation in which there was a egregious violation, not just a little, but a very serious, would you just revoke that permit because they're not in compliance at all?
We could do that and look into that possibility, as well as a stop work order so that might be addressed at that point, to have other there, because we can revoke the permit if it was issued with a set of circumstances that weren't followed. So we have that right. So we do have some things to do, but the earlier we catch it, the more likely we have for success.
thank you.
Thank
And
you.
to Corey's earlier point, there's so many, this is an exciting time. I mean, it's a strange time, obviously, because of the pandemic and the fact that we're looking at each other in squares, but it really is an exciting time after many, many years of planning throughout town, whether it's the harbor plan or a master plan, et cetera. It's once we get fully operational, hopefully this spring, there's going to be a lot of projects around town, and it's an exciting time to be part of the community. So welcome aboard.
Yeah, it doesn't take much just to drive through. You kind of could see where all the work is.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you again and welcome, and we'll be seeing you around.
Well, thanks for having me. It was nice to meet you all.
All right.
I'm sure we'll be in touch.
All right. Thanks, John. Thanks
Bye
for
now.
being with us. Great. Thank you. Am I muted?
We can hear you.
Nope.
I said just got flashed. Thank you. All right. Well, moving on to the community update. And it's been 2 weeks since we last met. So anxious to hear what's going on. Welcome. I hope everybody had a little bit of an opportunity to breathe for even 12 hours.
I think we did not have to have an all hands on deck call over the weekend, though we did keep in touch. So I think it was the first week that went by that we actually had a whole week between calls. So after having talked with everybody today, I think we're going to have Pam lead off, and I think and I have a visual to show of some new signage that Glenn worked with DPW to install. So we'll start with Pam, and then I'll show you one of the new signs.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So I just want to give a brief update of where the town stands with the COVID right now. So we're still a relatively low risk town, easy for me to say. But to date, we have had 87 confirmed cases, and there have been 167 contacts traced. So the thing to remember is that we really do need to, keep safe, keep following the rules, because we have a very small staff. So we really just have Mary Goodwin, and she has one support nurse that also helps her, and they do all the contact tracing. And so they really didn't have a break over the Thanksgiving weekend. They worked every single day. And one new confirmed case recently had as many as 16 different contacts. So those are people that they have to call almost daily to keep following up and see how they're doing. So our resources are almost already being strained, right? So even though it looks pretty good on paper, we're a low risk town, we still really have to be careful because we don't have a lot of help. So that's kind of where we stand with that. They're really working a lot. And, it's only December 1st, so we got to be really careful to get through this winter. On the good news front, Mary still has 30 doses of flu vaccine. So anybody that hasn't had a flu shot yet should get one, and you can contact us. And a reminder too that all the kids in public schools need to have a flu shot by the end of December. So if you still haven't gotten one yet, you can reach out to Mary and still get a flu shot. Other than that, that's pretty much where we stand. We're hanging in there, but we got to be careful.
Great. Corey?
Yeah, thanks, Pam. A quick question for you. I noticed a few, maybe weeks ago, we changed a little bit of how we worded cases. Could you describe, and I personally had a little bit of confusion over, because before we were tracking total number of cases, and now it looks like we're tracking active cases. Can you just clarify what the numbers that we publish now mean?
Sure. So one of the things that is a little confusing is it depends upon what type of test you get. So if you have a PCR test, a molecular test, that's really accurate, those are our confirmed cases. On the other hand, if somebody has an antigen test, it's more of a screening test. And so when those results come back positive, they're considered probable. And that's what makes it a little confusing, probable versus confirmed. And they still have to call up people and still have to do contact tracing and stuff with the probable, but it does make it a little bit more confusing.
And we're no longer reporting recovered cases. It used to be total and then recovered, and now is just new cases now per week? Is that really the number, or is it active cases?
It's the running total of everybody that's been confirmed with a PCR test, so that we know 100%, like those 87 people had COVID.
Okay.
The reason why they're not really doing the recovered is it's kind of a subjective thing. There's people associated with a long-term care facility that aren't exactly recovered yet. And so, it gets a little subjective. It's not black and white, that's the problem. So they kind of dropped doing it. And actually, Cohasset is now in line with what the state's doing. It's really the state that shifted, honestly. And so we want to make sure the way we report is exactly the same way that the state reports. So that if you look up online at the state dashboard, we should match that.
Okay, thank you.
Carrie?
Thank you, Pam, for all you're doing. I know how much strain this is on small staffs. I've had a couple people reach out and ask about testing and where we think the best spots are for testing right now. I know there's been a lot of stress about that on social media as well, and testing has been a problem this whole time, but I know it's starting to get worse. Do you have any recommendations for where people in town should go right now if they're feeling like they need a test?
I know it's actually very difficult. I know my husband just went through it this weekend because he needed one for work, and he ended up going to Revere because that's where the only place you can get a 48-hour turnaround for a PCR test, because they are starting to be 5 days now. So if you need one in a timely manner because you've traveled, it's very difficult. I mean, he spent hours trying to call around on the South Shore and find something. There are those stop the spread places, and those are in towns that have a lot of cases. And my recommendation would just be go really, really early. Again, my husband went to one in Revere. It started at 7 a.m. on Sunday. He got there at 5:45 in order to get a test.
Wow.
When he left it after 7, it was like miles of traffic. Unfortunately, I wish I knew one place where you're guaranteed to get in early. I don't know of anything. So you have to just call. And if you do find a place like a stop the spread, which they do have those all the time, just go as early as you possibly can.
Crazy. Imagine when the vaccine comes out.
Yeah, I know.
Probably be similar.
We'll have information as that gets closer. Hopefully we can start doing some stuff. Well, not we necessarily meaning Cohasset, but I mean the state will hopefully start doing it in January, I think. Fingers crossed, that's what they're predicting at this point.
That's some good news.
Mhm.
You're muted again, Diane.
I know, sorry. I think I breathe on my keyboard and it happens. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, so the vaccines, it looks like there are several plane loads that came into O'Hare from Europe. So there are some that have landed in the States, some of them being produced here as well. And it's up to the CDC for recommendations of emergency use authorization, which they're meeting, I believe, on Thursday, and then next Thursday to consider emergency use authorization for the vaccines. Massachusetts, it looks like to be on the list to get 600,000 doses. That's 300,000 total patients, which would cover, doctors, nurses, long-term care facilities, staff, and patients that are there. It should also cover police and fire, from what the numbers look like. The ACIP, which is the advisory committee for immunization, I think it's projections or recommendations, met today, and I listened in on some of it. They agreed to authorize for first responders, first responders, and for long-term care facilities and their staff. So that's the 1A group that will be vaccinated first. So that's very good news. Unfortunately, the numbers at South Shore have climbed dramatically. So I have to really recommend that you just don't travel, don't go out, try your best to be very careful. That's it.
Thanks, Paul. Okay. Do you want to move on with the staff?
Anything from either chief tonight, Chief Sylvia or Chief Quigley?
No, I think I'm good. We're just, everybody's working. We have one officer out as a close contact right now, and there's some other local PDs right on the South Shore here that have been hit hard. Hingham District Court had to close. Quincy District Court is closed tomorrow for deep cleaning. So, it's spreading like the good doctor said.
Chief, just a quick question. I know we were all kind of holding our breath and crossing our fingers for the Thanksgiving weekend. And as far as you're concerned from a policing point of view, were things
Everything was very
stable?
smooth, very smooth. We were busy with all the regular stuff, but no issues in the licensed premises or anything like that. So getting ahead of it, Pam getting ahead of it with that letter was great.
Good, thank you.
The only thing for me is my constant reminder to everybody, we got some great news about vaccines coming in, but as Dr. Schubert has mentioned, it may be late into the spring or early into the summer before there's enough vaccine to get us out of the woods. So in the meantime, all the doctors are telling us that this could be a very difficult December, January, and February if we don't all, and I hate to use the word, behave. Do what we're told, wear our masks, try and stay physically separated from others. I don't like the term social distancing. Chief Quigley and I laugh about this. There's nothing social about it. So the simple fact is, wear your mask, stay away from others, wash your hands, and if you don't feel well, stay away and stay home. And again, follow the advisory from the governor in regards to try to stay home if you can. This is not the time to be out and about. So hopefully we can slow this down again. We're back to almost where we were in the spring with the infamous flatten the curve. And I could bring out the Dr. Fauci doll, but I won't. The simple fact is that this is in our hands right now. And what we're seeing, around town is that people are starting to take this seriously with their mask usage, especially in the village and the common. And that's the segue to Glenn and his signs that he put up.
Well, we
Hi,
had
Glenn.
decided a while ago that we want to make certain that people understand that masks are mandatory, but do it in a way that was other than just hammering them. So Pam came up with some signs that other towns have used, and we've placed them around in probably close to 30 places in town that we generally think people gather, just as another reminder. And we'll see how it works. If you're riding around and you think there's a place that one would be good, let me know and we'll get it up. But so far so good. And I think one thing that every day things turn out that require the cooperation and coordination of multiple town departments, and it's all working. We're getting the goals accomplished every day, and hopefully the community is going to benefit from that. So I appreciate it.
We appreciate it as well. Thank you.
So I just want to thank everybody again. Again, it's a literal team effort all the time, and our efforts continue to be public education, and really just reminding people if we continue to do the right thing, we'll be okay. And so far, we've been pretty good. I mean, there's been some folks who've gotten sick, and we've had a little outbreak at Sunrise, and the schools have had a couple of incidents, and we all work through it. And so far, so good. So as long as folks keep following the rules, we can get to that vaccine day and hopefully come out of this come spring or summer. So that's the goal. So thank you everybody again.
And Chris, can you just remind me, because I don't have kids in the schools, did they go back to their regular 2 days of in-person?
Yeah,
Wednesday,
they started back up at the middle and high school today. In fact, in a week, is it a week or two? I guess next week. They're going to go to 3 days, so they're going to be rotating Wednesdays. So
Right.
every student will have 3 days a week, every other week in class. Again, it's something that that you can see all over the country. Kids are generally, it's not just a better educational experience and better for the families in general, but it's also safer because it's much more regulated. Kids are wearing their masks. There's a lot of precautions being taken. When kids are kids, once adults being adults, right? When kids get to be kids, they tend not to follow the rules. They're taking the masks off, they're doing this stuff. So being in school is actually safer to a very large extent. And as long as everyone continues to do the right thing, and the schools have really, done a lot cooperatively with the teachers, the staff, and obviously with the students and parents to keep everybody safe. So the goal is that they continue to stay fully active, and we sincerely hope that will get us right through the spring.
Terrific. Okay. Any other questions during this community update? Corey?
Yeah, just two quick things. We had some bad weather last night. So I just want to thank, the people in both your departments and the DPW for being out there. That was nasty, and you guys got the tree on North Main Street cleaned up and redirected traffic. So thanks for standing out there and keeping us safe. The other thing that I noticed is you guys have been very on the ball about tweeting and posting on Facebook, like real-time information, which I find very helpful. So thank you again for making that a priority, because I know I'll share stuff and then someone will mention it to me that was great. So please keep doing that. I think it's a great service to the community.
The communication is key.
It's like a race trying to keep up with. The radio cracks and we're on it and it's already out there. It's like it's brutal.
I know a few people in town that listen to the scanner all day, and I get like,
I don't know how they do it. Put them on the payroll.
Yeah, exactly. They could be our dispatchers. Whoops, don't want to get in trouble there. All right, great. Thank you all very much. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we will move on to the MBTA update. Chris, you want to start, or Corey?
Yeah, I'm going to defer, I think, to Corey on this. He's
Okay.
engaged lately than I have.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Corey, did you attend? You attended today?
I did, yes.
All right, you got the floor.
Okay, so 2 weeks ago, or last week, I guess, time is weird now. We had the meeting with the MBTA that was dedicated to the South Shore. I want to thank everybody that attended. We had close to 500 people
500
attending,
people.
which I'm told is way higher than any other meeting they've had. We had a lot of great people speak. There were some really, really on point comments about why our community really loves these services, especially the boat and Greenbush. These are just part of our community now. And the idea of losing them really struck a chord. And, the community responded. So thank you to everybody that took the time to go to that meeting and listen. I got a lot of feedback from people that I didn't even know were paying attention that were. Thank you for standing up and just being there, because we really made an impression. That impression, it seems to be making a difference. However, we're not done yet. The final decision is going to happen December 7th, so it's coming up. We still need, even though we've hit this peak, it's important we don't just kind of forget about it. So what we're going to do is on Thursday, we're going to try to do a little bit of a Greenbush highlight. So if you take the train on Thursday, please take a selfie of yourself on the train or on the platform with other people take the train, post it on like Cohasset 143 or post it on the Facebook page, Save the Greenbush, Save the Boat. And we want to get all this energy together to continue until next week's meeting. So that's the update. Again, I think we've done as a community a pretty good job of being heard. And now it's just, we need to be sure that we don't give up this fight before the decision is made.
What Corey said, it's really important now not to let up. We have made a difference, or a lot of really articulate, passionate commentary at the meeting last week, including all of our legislators and our congressmen and select board members, et cetera. So I think, and Stephanie Pollock, who's the Secretary of Transportation, listened very intently. She was taking notes. She was clearly moved by some of the comments, especially from, people who live way out in the, on the tip of Hull and rely on that boat to get to work and feed their families. So the advocacy continues. So again, follow through social media and the website, and hopefully we'll get some better news. So that, one of the interesting comments was, shouldn't we be, and I think it was from the congressman, shouldn't we be curtailing some of the services now instead of planning for it in March or April, when theoretically we could be, have our renaissance of going back to work in the office. And so anyway, I know the MBTA is listening intently, and I think we'll try to do what they can to their hands are tied. They have an enormous budget deficit, but hopefully the cuts will be less draconian than we anticipated initially. So we'll see. Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. All right. It is 7:30, so we are right on time. And we have permits and events. And the first one up is the Village Church Fair Cohasset Common. Chris, I think that Linda Indeck is here representing the Second Congregational Church, or the fair. And yep, I see her. She just got moved in.
Hello.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Do you mind walking us just sort of through the, just in general, what your application is? We all have it in our packets and in front of us. So just a little summary.
I guess the first update is that there will only be two churches, St. Stephen's and Second Congregational Church, that will be involved. So instead of 4 and possibly 5, there are only 2. And we have not done any PR or anything for this fair. We're certainly trying hard to not make something big and congested. St. Stephen's would be down by the picnic tables, the red picnic tables. And then we will be up by the kind of diagonally across from Second Congregational Church and in front of the town hall, that corner up that way. And so we're hoping to get the traffic to flow. We're going to have signage and down the street on the sidewalk, going one direction. And then if they want to go around, they have to take the walk that actually goes around the pond and come up on the other side. And for counting, we were going to, well, first of all, we have cones for the tables. Tables, of course, are 6 feet apart and they're 8-foot tables. So one or two people. If 2 people, they will have chairs. They'll be on either end. We will have cash boxes on each table so that people aren't running back and forth between each other. Everybody wears masks and gloves. We don't have a huge amount of things. We have signage for baked goods, that they will be baked in residential kitchens. Cheese will be prepackaged and pre-cut. People can order their chowder is virtual. And they already had their permit. And you can order it online and then pick it up by the kitchen door, which is on the side of the building between the town hall and the church. And the Metco wreaths are in the front of the church, which also with the driveway, you could drive in and pick up your wreath because they will have ordered online as well. And counting. So our thought was, because we don't have those little hand clickers, that we would put visuals up for people. We would divide it in lines. And so each person within their section would count their section, and then they would add up, how many people, and keep track of how many people they had there. And that would, where it's smaller now, that would be 100 people.
So just a quick little summary, and then I'd love to hear from, I know you've been working with at least Pam and probably some other staff. This would be for this Saturday.
Correct.
December 5th from 10 to 3. And
Correct.
St. Stephen's will be selling some goods over by the picnic tables.
Correct.
You'll be selling some things in front of town hall on the common.
Yeah, I think everybody's selling masks. Masks and baked goods.
They're hot. and then there is chowder that people have pre-ordered and they pick it up at the church.
Correct.
The church door, like the doorway area, or are they going in?
No, at the doorway, and you go down the walk.
Okay.
And you would turn and head back out.
Okay.
But George can address that a little better. Originally, I had them going down and turning and coming back out because there was a big enough space to do that.
So Pam, do you want to just kind of chime in, and from the town's perspective, what we needed to look at and how they're meeting our thresholds?
Sure. So fortunately, it's an outdoor event, which is great because outdoor stuff is typically safer, much safer than indoor stuff. So what I've been asking these guys plus other people that have been doing events is to submit a COVID safety plan. And so the State Department of Public Health actually has event guidance, specifically if you're going to have an event, how do you do it safely under COVID? And so using that guidance, they prepared a safety plan, and they've met all the different criteria regarding social distancing. I know you don't like that term, mask usage, all that type of stuff. The gathering order, that limits events to 100 people outside. So the fact that they're going to have the two, in essence, it's going to be like two fairs, a St. Stephen's fair on one end and a Second Congregational Fair at the other side of the common, so that, each one can be limited to 100 people. So yeah, they've ticked off all the boxes, and this could be done safely as laid out.
And just a question again about the chowder, because that's where they're kind of going into buildings. I imagine they can use restrooms there if they're picking up chowder.
They aren't going into the building for chowder.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the restroom, I honestly, there's no like in the past, the church fairs have all had children's activities to do. We don't have anything like that.
Okay. All right.
Unfortunately, but
I know.
So
next year.
So nobody's really staying around a long time. We have, so if you're looking at Second Congregational Church, there's a ramp on the right before the sidewalk where those that are working at the table, if they needed the restroom, you go up that ramp right in there, and the restroom is right in front right as you go through the door on the right-hand side. So the workers would, if they needed that, but
Right.
we're not encouraging people to like hang around and.
Okay. That's great.
It's, I don't want to say that we wouldn't like people to come. We certainly would.
Right.
But more sort of a church community, trying to
Yeah.
do a
To-
little something.
Feel a little normal. I think it's an important thing
Yeah.
to do for sure.
And we have folks that have worked all year on crafts. So it was, you know what, if we can, we'll give it our best shot.
Right. I'm glad to hear you're selling masks because I'm running out of masks.
Oh, we got
And-
plenty. Christmas ones too, holiday ones.
Yep. And you know what, Linda, I didn't, for the record, if you just would mind, just for our note taker, if you could just give your name and address to the record, and then I'll switch to George, who I didn't know was going to be here. So, and I'll ask him to do the same after you.
Linda Indek, 17 Adams Road, Cohasset.
Great. Thank you. And then George, tell me your piece in this.
Yeah, so George Baumgarten, 264 East Avenue, Cohasset as well. Linda covered a lot of this, and we're very excited to work on this. We have on the town hall side, the Second Congo town hall side, we also have the ASP secret room, and that's Joanne Lear, and is the lead on that. And that will be located in the brick walkway between the two buildings. The public will only be outside. They're going to be limiting or essentially accepting a number of people into the secret room, which will operate under tents outside. Children will purchase their gifts, and then they will be brought to Bates Hall inside the Second Congregational Church, where up to 10 volunteers will be wrapping presents in order to give it back. So this is a replacement to what used to happen in St. Stephen's in years past. And that's in addition. The other space, the takeout chowder bar you talked about earlier, that actually will operate from the kitchen door in the Second Congregational Church. So again, the public will only be outside in terms of picking up their pre-orders there.
And the secret room is where they find a little gift, and then it gets wrapped elsewhere, but the public is not going inside.
That's correct.
Correct. Okay.
Only volunteers are going inside. They're masked. The Bates Hall is an 1,800 square foot room, and we've spaced it out. It actually could accommodate up to 15 according to COVID rules. We're limiting that to 10.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Corey?
Yeah, Pam, just to be clear, one of the things we set out was we're okay approving stuff as long as the plan is, completely approved by your office. Does this plan have you said before, but just to clarify, has your approval?
It does. Like I said, they've definitely gone through the guidance and ticked off all the boxes, and it really pretty much is all outside, other than like a couple of wrappers inside. That's all outside. And they've met all the criteria.
I'm sorry. The only thing that one thing caught my eye was the number of people outside. I mean, I do know that we have the 100 person limit, and you did said these are two separate events. I remember you and I were talking about the concept of, what constitutes a separate event, and really the idea being you don't want people to cross those things. Is that likely here, where we're going to have people shopping one place than another place? I'm just, prioritizing safety here, or is it really two distinct events? And maybe the host can better speak to that.
I'll start with it. I think for the Congregational Church, there are different venues. To be truthful, Corey, there could be some crossover. Somebody who does take out chowder also may be shopping at the craft events. I think the families that attend the secret room may then turn out and go to the craft events. So there is some possible crossover there. We will have roving volunteers from our church who are both serving as counters and actually will be assisting the people who are actually operating the venues, the crafts, the takeout chowder, the secret room, and will be politely helping folks to keep their social distance because the helpers may be actually occupied. In terms of counting, it is a challenge. We don't know, whether there'll be a burst of people, but we will be counting them and helping manage distance and certainly masks and sanitizing in case folks are not paying attention to that.
I would say in terms of the St. Stephen's versus the Second Congregational, though, there is enough physical distance, I think, to separate the two of them and make that an obvious separation.
Yeah,
so-
I mean, the craft part of the tables of the churches outside, out in the common, aren't really close to this group. The two parts that are possibly and honestly interacting are the chowder and the children's table. And my question.
Hold on, Linda, you're on mute.
Am I back?
You're back. Yep.
Is just the direction of flow in and out of there for both events.
I wondered the same, and just in terms about the tent, and just to make sure that I think the rule is, Pam, two sides need to be open.
No, not anymore.
No?
That kind
Okay.
of went out the window
Okay.
once the
So the
cold
tent's
weather
fine.
came along. Yeah.
And that space is somewhat narrow. I don't know if there's another place to locate the tent. I don't know. You tell me. I don't know what size the tent is, just in terms of the egress for the chowder picker uppers.
I can speak to that. The tents actually are like 10-foot pop-up tents. So they're no sides, they're small. And we're going to be directing people to come in from the common side, make their purchases, and then walk out via the town hall parking lot and walk around town hall.
Go that way.
And
There's
then
not
they'll
a
pick
lot
up-
of,
Right. We're trying to avoid that interaction of coming and going. And then folks will pick up their gifts out in front of the church once they're wrapped.
Right. So there is a flow, a one direction.
okay. Right. Any other questions, Carrie?
Question from Sean Galvin at 143 Fort Hill Street in Hingham. He wants to know if there's a rain plan, such as tents for a possible rain plan, and if there will be holiday music by bands at the fair. I think I know the answer to that, but I'll
The
let.
second one anyway, yeah.
There's no bands, and as far as the church craft table and cheese, if it rains, you have to go virtual. We have all of it online. We will not be sitting in the rain. Because we can't keep people, they would have to be standing in the rain at the markers, keeping them 6 foot apart.
So there's no rain plan, but everything would be available.
I mean, I would
online.
ask you if we could have a rain date the next day, maybe for a couple hours after church. But I think it's supposed to rain Sunday too.
I guess, and for the secret room, my understanding is that they, short of a downpour, they would plan to keep operating the secret room under their tents. That's what the tents are there for.
Well, I'm no meteorologist, but I did hear that Saturday's supposed to be okay until much later. So hopefully we can get this in.
Fingers
I mean, certainly it's something the community needs, any sense of normalcy. And we sort of test drove this with the farmers market throughout the summer, where, there were outside tables and the crowds sort of policed themselves and weren't all there at the same time. And I think there's enough space for this, and I'm glad you're going forward with it. Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion? Somebody's got to, I can't.
I'll make a motion that we approve the application for Second Congregational Church and St. Stephen's Church for the Village Fair, December 5, 2020, on the Town Commons, 12/4, 9 a.m. until 3 p.m.
Do you want to put in a rain date just in case?
And rain date 12/5,
12/6?
2020, 9 a.m. till 3 p.m.
Okay.
Second, although isn't it supposed to be on 12/5?
Yeah, 12/6
Rain
would be
date
the next.
12/6. Yeah.
12/6, the rain date, to just amend the motion. Okay. All right, second that, Carrie.
Second that.
Okay, roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, I just need to disclose that I am a member of the Second Congregational Church. I don't think there's any conflict.
No.
Jack Creighton votes aye.
Ray Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
Great, thank you. Thanks for bringing some holiday cheer to the town, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I could just have Pam and the chiefs just hang out for a little. Don't jump away quite yet. So the other piece we've been talking about is that we've always done a lighting of the tree out front on the common, and we are going to get those lights done. So I just got an update this evening that we have someone coming in tomorrow to wrap the tree. It's our lights, but we have someone we're bringing in to kind of wrap it up for us. So we will be able to turn the lights on. Based on everything that's going on, having a ceremony of any kind is probably not a good idea. That said, we do think it's important, just psychologically and seasonally, to have the tree, lit up in the evenings. The only thing we're trying to hammer out is the best night to do it. So if everything gets done tomorrow, weather and wind permitting, so the guy gap is lift, we can either do it Thursday or Friday. One thing we talked about, I've talked informally with a few folks, is maybe doing something where we, stream it live on Facebook or something, just so people can experience it. So if I'm in this is kind of coming together informally as we pulled resources together. So if that's something, we have an event. There won't be an event per se, but at least we'd like the tree. And again, if somebody come down and live stream it on their Facebook, on their Facebook account, that would be great. Maybe we do a little countdown and light it up. So any thoughts?
Why don't we invite somebody from Safe Harbor to be the symbolic tree lighter?
That's great.
Do that.
I'll reach out to Nicole. Maybe we get the youth ambassadors as the symbolic tree lighters.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
I can't think of anything better.
And it would. And Chris, do we have are they on a timer?
They will be once we turn it on. Yes, there's a timer. There has been a timer in the box out there. So yeah, I don't quite. Other people higher up on the pay grade than I am know how to turn it on and off. So I got to make sure they set it up right and adapt for the darker nights. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it would be, obviously, again, to what I just said earlier, is that any sense of normalcy and sort of joy and celebration is very welcome. So, when you think that it's going to be, I think it's a great idea. If somebody wants to be the ceremonial tree lighter, that's terrific. If you could just let us know too, because I wouldn't mind doing a drive-by and just watching a little bit of magic happen. So.
We will certainly do that. I will have a little bit better idea tomorrow. And
absolutely.
And we'll post it on Facebook too, so people can all watch. So do we have any volunteers? Can you live stream this, Carrie? Do you want to be the live streamer?
You can live stream it, sure.
Okay. Anybody wants to, if any of you want to come down and safely socially distance, you're all welcome to. But again, we don't want to make this a giant public event either. So
correct. Yep.
We'll keep it on the down low exactly when. And then we'll pop it up on Facebook and report it.
Great. That sounds terrific.
All right,
But we will have some symbolic thing from Safe Harbor.
Yeah, I'm going to work them in. So I'll find out if they're available, Jack, to make sure. So we'll either do it Thursday or Friday, probably, depending on availability. I'll let all of you know when. I'll reach out to Nicole in the morning or this evening after the meeting. I'll reach out to her and see who we can round up for that.
Sounds great. Okay. All right. Any comments, questions? All right, we're good. Thanks. It is December, so these things matter. Okay, we are going to move along. Next in our agenda is the annual license renewals and vote to authorize signatures on approved licenses and permits. So I'm going to just bring that document up so I have it in front of me. Before we get started on this, we did get a memo a little while ago noting that a number of restaurant establishments have requested a reduction in their annual license fees. Has everybody seen that? And then Chris, are you prepared to just kind of summarize that, or I don't think Jen's with us, is she?
Yes, I'm happy to. So I'm trying to actually pull up the,
It came to us at
yeah,
5:10.
yeah, I have it. Here we go. I can put it up on the screen if you want me to. So.
That would be great. Thank you.
So let me read it through quick and then I'll put it up on the screen. So basically, the folks who have on-premises licenses, and those are really the restaurants and the couple of clubs that we have. A couple of them have asked about a potential license fee reduction, and we did research this. And we just look at our immediate neighbors. So Hingham has not reduced anything. Situate did a 25% reduction and Hull did a 50% reduction. I think one of the biggest differences in this is that Hull is a very seasonal place. I think a lot of their restaurants have been hurt more significantly than Cohasset. So again, every local condition is what it is. Hingham is very comparable to us, and they didn't decide to reduce fees. So the town has 13. They're called Section 12 licenses. Let me share this memo so you can see what I'm talking about. And they broke out these categories. There's an all alcohol on premises. Those are the restaurant licenses, so wine and malt. There's a club on premises. The club on premises veterans, which is the Legion. The club on premises is the golf club, and then the inn holder is the Crescent Harbor Inn. So and there's the other 8 are those other 10. The 8 all alcohol and the 2 wine and malt are restaurants, local restaurants. So the full fee, as you can see, it's $1,875, and that's the highest because that's the most lucrative license. Then it goes on down. Veterans, which is only $750. And this is what the decrease would mean in terms of total dollar volume. So the total fees are typically about $21,000. If you did a 25% reduction, it's actually easy to see these here, right? It goes down to $900 for the club. Goes to $562, and I'm not going to do the math in my head real quick, but it's about the same, a little bit about $1,400 for the restaurants. If you do it in half, it goes down to about $900 for the restaurants. So,
Okay.
Again, it's really it's really up to you. There's no this is a very unusual year. This is not something we would normally consider, but several restaurants have asked. They've reached out to ask. And I asked Jen to do some research, and you have the comps from the other communities. So Hull's done 50% of the liquor license, Situate 25%, and Hingham did not reduce fees.
And I would like to ask Carrie and Corey, who are working on the economic task force, to just kind of weigh in from their perspective. But before we do that, just remind the board that when we set the budget for this year, now this was certainly nothing we anticipated. We thought we would be have this situation well behind us at this point, but we did, I think, lower in our budgeting for the year by 15% collection of fees or local fees, which include this and building permits and a whole bunch of other things. But just from a macro budgeting point of view, we did expect fees to go down. So if we were to make a decrease in this, I don't think I think the budget impact would be negligible. So Carrie and then Corey and then Paul, do you want to have a comment before I turn it over to sort of the economic perspective?
Oh, sure. So is there any way we can offset this with the CARES Money Act?
I don't know. I could check, Paul. I'm not sure. I will check. It is a pretty, it's important, by the way. It's real money to the restaurant owners. But from the town's overall budget, $50 million, it's a pretty negligible amount of money. We can make do.
Yeah.
So if there was a real budget impact, I'll let you know, but I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
And just wondering if that small amount could be, if we have monies left over from the CARES money, whether that would be allowed.
Yeah, I'll check. I'll check.
And Carrie and then Corey.
In speaking to a lot of business owners, not just restaurants, but hearing about the stress they've been facing, especially heading into the winter, I think we absolutely want to consider doing this at least by 25% or 50%. I know restaurants are very worried heading into the next few months, especially with losing a lot of outdoor dining. especially with it getting colder. I think as, you know, the virus spikes more in our community, we're going to see people less wanting to go sit and eat in person. And also, you know, we're hoping that I think takeout business will remain strong for our businesses, but we just don't know what to expect in the next few months too. So, you know, our restaurants, I think, in town have done a great job, especially with outdoor dining for the summer and fall, and they've been hanging on. But I think that the biggest fears are heading into the next few months. So I do think
Absolutely.
this is a gesture that we can make as a town to help them in these next few months, because it's going to get rougher than it is now.
Agreed. Corey?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to just repeat that with a couple of more data points. You know, we did the Cohasset Economic Task Force did a kind of town-wide survey of businesses, and from the restaurants we heard from, they said that, you know, the actual revenue, what they were selling was better than they expected, but there were a bunch of unanticipated costs that were really the problem. It wasn't the business, it was the other stuff. It was increased staffing costs, it was COVID costs. So even though the town has done a really great job of trying to give these businesses or these restaurants in town business and keep them open, there's still stuff that they're facing. And the other thing that I did hear from one restaurant in town that said 15% of their revenue came from after 9:30. And we now have the curfew, which is 9:30. So, you know, 15% is a lot. I mean, that's a, you know, a day of business that they're now missing. And that was mainly alcohol. So I feel like this, I mean, we can't obviously fix, you know, we can't make everything even. These are tough times. This, as Carrie said, is a great gesture. And I think, you know, matching what Hull did at 50% really gives a nice bump where restaurants can, you know, choose to have a little bit of wiggle room, and just shows our support. So I would enthusiastically support, you know, this decrease.
Some reduction. Jack?
Yeah, I think it's important that we support the communities there. It's not just the business, but we maintain the vitality of our downtown and our community. The only reservation that I would have is I would expect that if we're going to do that, that would be restricted to people who are current on all their other fees. Or fees or assessments or whatever.
Yeah, and I believe that's, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, right? They can't, you can't get a license or a permit without being current with other licenses and permit fees.
Yeah, if there's other active, like if there's an active tax bill or something, yes.
Okay.
So
I guess sorry. I guess the next question is the level to which we would want to consider a fee reduction for these specific, what is it, Section 12 businesses?
Yeah, it's Section 12. It's on premises.
On premises.
On premises, authorizing the sale of beverage to be drunk on premises.
Okay. Anybody have a sense of 25, 50, split the difference? Carrie?
I'll echo what Corey said. I think we should go for 50. I was going to say 25 at the minimum, but I'll propose that we do 50.
Paul?
So 50 would be about $10,000 in the town. Yeah, I mean, in the, you know, the long-term point of view, the budget is what, 49 million? It's a drop in the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, I'd go with 50.
Okay. All right, any other comments? Otherwise, I'll ask for a motion.
Take a shot. I'd like to make a motion that the town reduce the 12 licensees for under Chapter 138 by 50%. Should we just do for this year, for 2021?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we
Just
can
this
do it
year.
next year.
Okay.
Was that, did you say 138 Section 12? You should make sure you include Section.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chapter 138, Section 12 licensees. I read that wrong.
Great.
My apologies.
All right. Thanks for that clarification. Is there a second on that motion?
Well, I want to point it
Okay.
out. Would that include, are you including the provision that for those who are current in their fees and other obligations to the town?
My motion does not include that. I'm under the understanding that the license cannot be renewed if there are other things anyway. So my understanding is that is not part of this.
Okay,
that's
so
correct.
your understanding is that it couldn't apply because,
Correct.
all right. Just wanted to clarify that.
Second.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any last minute comments? All right, we'll go for a vote, beginning with Jack.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
Great. Okay. I think that's a really terrific show of support for our restaurants in particular who've been struggling. Okay, so moving to the licenses. So the way we've done this is by category. And you know, I'll ask for somebody to move and then read all of the businesses in, you know, that are listed under. And then we will discuss after that vote whether, as we brought up at the last meeting, to make a second motion once we've approved the kind of slate, if you will, to allow for signatures of any one of us or the town manager, depending on, and I think most of these licenses are probably ready to be signed. So maybe we would just leave it that, you know, anybody that can sign it, come by Thursday. And if we get 5 signatures, fabulous. If we get 2, we've covered ourselves so that they can get issued as soon as possible. Is that right, Chris, that we should take the licenses first and then do the specific authorization within that category?
Yeah, you got to do a section category by category. So you'd approve the block of licenses, and then you'd also do a separate motion on authorizing who can sign.
Yep. Okay. So let's start with the renewal for the all alcohol on premises licenses. Is there a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve the renewal of the following all alcohol on premises licenses. Celtic Bistro Corporation, doing business as Bia Bistro, the Corner Stop Eatery, DBA The Corner Stop, A&S Restaurants LLC, DBA Atlantica, V&AA Incorporated, DBA Ava Cucina, White Crane Incorporated, DBA Feng Shui Restaurant, Cohasset Pub Corp, DBA Mr. Dooley's Old Village Pub, Nguyen's Kitchen 1 LLC, DBA Nguyen's Kitchen, and RBLB Inc., DBA Lenny's Hideaway.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote for the all alcohol on premises licenses.
Jack Creighton, I, with the kind of approval thing that no, it doesn't get issued if they're not current on all the monies owed to the town. So that's going to preface everything. But anyway,
That's a personal qualifier as opposed to a motion amendment.
That's correct.
Thank you.
I'm just clarifying that that's been clearly said earlier.
Corey?
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
Okay. And would anybody like to make a motion on the signing of the licenses?
I move that to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to any and all licenses issued and or approved by the select board or on related matters.
Is there a second? Okay, Carrie's a second. All
Quick,
right. Yep.
Point of
Go
order,
ahead.
should we amend that to not any licenses, and all licenses should just be the all alcohol on premises licenses? It just says any and all licenses issued. I don't think that's what we mean. We just mean the category of
Under this category, right. And I think probably the way this was written was that it was going to be
it was
as part
copy
of
and
one
pasted.
motion.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So does everybody understand that as that amendment? So we're going to change any and all to relative to the all alcohol on premises licenses. That's
Is
a
it
formal
not-
amendment.
Yeah, is it not possible to have kind of an omnibus to authorizing the signatures for all the things we're about to approve, just in the essence of time?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it was my opinion that for procedure matters, I prefer to have a clear vote by the board to not sign something that typically we would normally sign, just for everything that way, for clarity of record and for clarity of minutes, that there is a clear vote and then a clear authorization of a single signature, which is a little bit not as normally done. So that was,
I don't feel strongly about it.
So Corey, I'm gonna
So
take
do you want me to
the,
withdraw the motion? I can withdraw the motion.
yeah, why don't you withdraw the motion,
I'd like to
redo the
with-
motion?
Madam Chair, I would withdraw my motion. I would like to do a further motion. Move to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to any and all licenses regards to on-premises licenses for all alcohol beverages issued and or approved by the select board or on related matters.
There you go. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we'll do a roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Thank you,
Okay.
everybody.
Okay, this will get easier. Next up, if somebody would like to make a motion on the wine and malt.
I move to approve the renewal of the following wine and malt on-premise licenses: South Shore Playhouse Associates, doing business as South Shore Music Circus, 5 South Main Inc., DBA 5 South Main.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Okay, and then we'll have the same procedure with the next motion.
I make a motion that we move to authorize any member of the select board and or town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to any of the licenses for wine and malt on premises licenses and or approved by the board, select board or on related matters.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Okay, moving right along, all alcohol on premises in holder. Somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the renewal of the following in holder all alcohol on premises license, Cohasset Harbor Group LLC, doing business as Cohasset Harbor Inn.
Second.
Great, there's a motion and a second. Any questions? Okay, roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Okay, and a motion.
I move to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to in holder all alcohol on premises license approved by the select board or on related matters.
Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Great, moving right along to club all alcohol on premises.
I move to approve the renewal of the following club all alcohol on premises licenses: the George H. Mealy Post, number 118, the American Legion, and the Cohasset Golf Club, DBA Cohasset Golf Club.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Okay. Great, thank you. Next up is the retail package all alcohol licensees.
We got to do the second motion, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
I move to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to the club all alcohol on premises license approved by the select board or on related matters.
Second.
Okay, call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Okay, next we're moving on to the retail package all alcohol licenses.
I move to approve the renewal of the following retail package all alcohol licenses: A Taste for Wine Inc., DBA A Taste for Wine, and Yogi Raj Kaur, DBA Curtis Liquors.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and a roll call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Okay, great.
I move to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to the retail package all alcohol licenses issued and or approved by the select board or on related matters.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Okay, if we could just take a moment, if you have this in front of you. This is a little different only because this is was a transfer, a transfer of address that we approved that is still in front of ABCC. So this is for Sejan Enterprises. I'm going to just read it. The transfer application for this location from South Main Street to Chief Justice Cushing Highway is still in process at the ABCC. The renewal should be voted at the old location, which was in the application. And if the ABCC approves of the transfer, the ABCC files and our records will then reflect the change of location. If approved, we will have the select board will then have to sign a new license at the new address. These processes are in a parallel track as the change of application was held at a time before the renewal process began. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? So we will probably just have to sign another fee, but this is for the 2021 application of Sejan Enterprises. So if somebody would like to make this motion.
Make a motion to approve the renewal of the following retail package all alcohol license for Sejan Enterprises LLC, DBA Cohasset Wine and Spirits.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Okay, and the next motion?
I make a
Corey.
motion to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to the retail package license for Sejan Enterprises, DBA Cohasset Wine and Spirits, as approved by the select board or on related matters.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great, roll call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Okay, next up, retail package wine and malt licenses.
I move to approve the renewal of the following retail package wine and malt licenses: Mulaney's Fish Market, Barrel and Vine LLC, DBA Barrel and Vine, The Anchor and Sale LLC, DBA Anchor and Sale.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
I would like to move to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to the retail package wine and malt licenses approved by the select board or on related matters.
For a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
Okay, we are now moving on to the common victualers license. That's actually one list that's broken up for some reason. Carrie, how about it?
I'm ready. All right. Move to approve the
All right.
renewal of the following common victualler licenses: Celtic Bistro Corporation, DBA Bia Bistro; The Corner Stop Eatery, DBA The Corner Stop; A&S Restaurants LLC, DBA Atlantica; V&AA Incorporated, DBA Ava Cucina; White Crane Incorporated, DBA Feng Shui Restaurant; Cohasset Pub Corp., DBA Mr. Dooley's Old Village Pub; Nguyen's Kitchen 1 LLC, DBA Nguyen's Kitchen. Move to approve the renewal of the following. Yeah, continued. All right. RBLB Inc., DBA Lenny's Hideaway; Cohasset Pizza Company Inc., DBA Victoria's; 3A Pizza and Grill, DBA 3A Pizza and Grill; 5 South Main; South Shore Playhouse Associates, DBA South Shore Music Circus; the George H. Mealy Post, number 118, the American Legion; Cohasset Golf Club; Cohasset Pizza House; Atlantic Bagel; Cohasset Donuts LLC; H&I Donuts LLC; French Memories; JJ's Dairy Hut; S. Olympus Grill; Starbucks, Peel Pizza, and Anchor and Sale.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions? All right, roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Carrie Thompson, I.
I would like to make a motion to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to the common victular,
Victular.
thank you, licenses approved by the select board or on related matters.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
Okay, moving on to the inn holder common vic license.
I move to approve the renewal of the following in-holder common victual license, Cohasset Harbor Group LLC, doing business as Cohasset Harbor Inn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
Surprisingly,
Okay.
I would like to move to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to the in-holder common victular license approved by the select board or on related matters.
We're making you work for this, Corey. Is there a second?
You wanted it.
I asked for it,
Exactly.
I got it.
Yeah.
You got it. All right. Roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
Great. Now, local entertainment license.
I move to approve the renewal of the following local entertainment licenses. A&S Restaurants LLC, doing business in Atlantica. Cohasset Pub Corporation, doing business in Mr. Dooley's Old Village Pub. RBLB Incorporated, doing business as Lenny's Hideaway. South Shore Playhouse Associates, doing business as South Shore Music Circus. George H. Mealy, Post number 118, the American Legion. The Corner Stop Eatery, doing business as the Corner Stop. Celtic Bistro Corporation, doing business as Bia Bistro, and Cohasset Golf Club.
Second. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
I move to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to local entertainment licenses approved by the select board or on related matters.
Is there a second? Okay. Roll call.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
Great. We're getting there. We're almost done. State entertainment licenses.
Move to approve the renewal of the following state entertainment licenses. A&S Restaurants LLC, DBA Atlantica, Cohasset Pub Corp, DBA Mr. Dooley's Old Village Pub, The Corner Stop Eatery, DBA The Corner Stop, RBLB Inc., DBA Lenny's Hideaway, South Shore Playhouse Associates, DBA South Shore Music Circus, George H. Mealy Post 118, The American Legion, Celtic Bistro Corp, DBA Bia Bistro, and Cohasset Golf Club.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
All right.
I
Go
move
for
to
it, Corey.
authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to the state entertainment licenses approved by the select board or on related matters.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
Great. Now we're into class 1 and 2 car sales, new and used vehicle licenses.
Move to approve the renewal of the following Class 1 and Class 2 car sales, new and used vehicles licenses. WN Motors Incorporated, doing business as Coastal Nissan, 742 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. Cohasset Imports, 508 Chief Justice Cushing Highway.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
I would like to move to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to any Class 1 and Class 2 car sales, new and used vehicle licenses approved by the select board or on related matters.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
Okay. Next up is class 2 car sales, used vehicle licenses.
Move to approve the renewal of the following Class 2 car sales, used vehicles licenses. CBK Auto, Jeffrey Pincus, 547 Beechwood Street. Aristocrat Auto and Truck Sales, Joseph Rosano, 105 Ripley Road. John's Car Care, John Cubic Owner. Elage Auto Group LLC.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Sorry, Diane Kennedy, I.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
I would like to move to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to the Class 2 car sales used vehicles licenses approved by the select board or on related matters.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, I.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
Okay, we also have two establishments who chose not to renew this year for different reasons. The Red Lion Inn will be applying for a new all premises, all alcohol license. And Victoria Pizza chose also not to renew. So we need to take two affirmative votes on the turning in of these two particular licenses. First one is Cohasset Sorrow DBA Red Lion Inn. Would anybody like to make that motion?
I move to not approve the renewal of the following inn holder on premises all alcohol license, Cohasset Sorrow Inc., DBA Red Lion Inn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, I.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
Okay, and then the next motion to not renew. Anybody like to make that
Make a
motion?
motion to not approve the renewal of the following on-premises wine and malt license, Cohasset Pizza Company Incorporated, doing business as Victoria's Pizza.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, I.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
This threw me off, and I just want to make sure, Chris, is there something that we're going to need to sign on that? Do we need that signing motion to follow, or are we good with this?
I don't.
Yeah, I think there is some kind of certification that has to go to the state. I just assume you authorize the signature just in case.
Okay, all right, Corey, this is it. It's all yours.
I would like to authorize, it's a double negative.
Yeah.
I would like to authorize any member of the select board or the town manager to sign on behalf of the town any documents relative to not approving the renewal of the inn holder on-premise all alcohol license for Cohasset Sorrow Inc., DBA Red Lion, or the wine and malt liquor license for Cohasset Pizza Company, DBA Victoria's Pizza, as approved by the select board or on related matters.
Second.
I think that's right. Yep. Okay, roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, I.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, I.
Okay, I think we are done. And Chris, if we just have are the licenses available for signature?
Yeah, I believe I'll have Tracy send an email tomorrow. She's actually off today, so I'll have her send it
Okay.
tomorrow.
They'll be ready on Thursday, Chris.
So there we go. So the voice from the beyond, Justine, says they're ready Thursday.
Thank
So
you.
if you want to schedule times to come in, just give Tracy a call and you can set up a time to come in.
Right. Or not, and obviously, yeah, just give it a 24-hour window that makes sense, so that. they can get
Basically,
done.
if you could come in between now and noon on Friday. How's that?
Yep,
Set up a time. If after
but
that point,
after Thursday, right?
yeah, and again, if any of you come in and sign, it just means I don't have to sign them. So just as long as any one person signs them,
Okay.
we're good.
All right. That's great. Thank you very mumuch. Okay, I want to be mindful of the Alternative Energy Committee's time, who they're next up on our agenda. So we're going to move right along to an update on the solar RFP, which we were briefed on a while ago, and obviously had some action at town meeting in June. So I'd like to bring up Tanya and anybody else, Tanya, that is going to be joining you. I think Michelle Leary is also here. Tanya, I can't see you. Oh, there you are.
Here I am.
Hi.
I am here. You can bring up Michelle if Michelle would like to come up. And
Michelle.
if there's a question about the schools, I think either Lydia or Susan Owen from the schools, who is on the evaluation committee, would be able to answer those questions.
Okay, I don't believe they're here.
Okay.
But just let me know if I'm wrong. So
Well, if either of them are, why don't you just send Diane a note on the Q&A saying you are. And if not, We've done a lot of
Yeah,
discussion.
they don't appear to be attending, so thank
Okay.
you. Welcome, and thank you for being patient.
No problem. No problem. And do I have rights to share? Can I share my presentation?
Hope so.
Yep, I think now I got it.
You can now.
All right, perfect. So before I bring this up, just a quick overview. We have had an incredibly successful procurement through the RFP process for solar energy on town sites. And as we asked for and wanted, bidders have been able to provide us with some pricing and what other sites in the town of Cohasset might look like. And that's given us a great overview of what the potential pricing is, what the potential options are. It's very, very exciting. We've gotten way more opportunities than the town municipal load itself needs, but that opens up a whole bunch of other opportunities. So I'm going to share right now. And let's see. Hold on one moment. Let me just make sure that yep, it's up. So let me try this one more time.
Because nothing can be easy.
No, I know. I got it. All right. Can everybody see this? I'm assuming yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yep,
perfect.
looks great.
All right, so we're going to walk through the status of the request for proposal process, what we've learned, and then the recommendation of the evaluation committee, who has finalized a multi-week effort to really understand what the options are for solar energy in the town. And remember, it's not just about savings, but there are significant savings we might be able to get. It's also the building blocks to potential reliability and resiliency. So the good news is lots of potential savings. We're going to talk about those potential savings. It's about $75,000 to $125,000 a year, or $1.5 to $3 million over the next 20 years. That's just for the town's municipal load. And as we've said, it also allows us to start moving forward and thinking about how we might have more reliability. As you know, this has been a year worse than most with respect to outages, and we don't see it getting better. So we are helping think through what we need to do to make sure that the town has power when power from National Grid goes out. So we have potential savings. Our ask on this at the end is we as the Alternative Energy Committee and the Evaluation Committee have no authority on our own. It comes from the Select Board. So our ask at the end, if you agree, is to pursue our proposed plan, which would work with 3 different bidders for 3 different sites or types of sites to move forward with solar energy for the town and realize those savings. The timing, this is a long process. We are here at the negotiating, finalizing the terms. We need permission from the board to move forward, but not permission or authorization to move forward with any town sites that the town meeting gave the board authorization to pursue. And I'll explain that in a moment. Tomorrow we're meeting with the school committee. We've already met with the school committee. Members from the school committee and the schools have been very involved with the evaluation process. I think they understand more about energy now than they ever thought they needed to, but it's all been wonderful. And we are at the point where it's time to negotiate finalized terms, contract, and then the developers have to go before the siting board and get permits and all the approvals that are needed to move forward. And then once we obtain the interconnection agreement, the net metering and all the approvals, they can build and the money and the savings can start rolling in. But we are on a, yes.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just going to interrupt just for clarification where you say the siting board is, you mean the planning board, or is that something, is siting board something different?
It's the equivalent of whoever has to approve the siting.
The planning board, I believe.
Planning board.
Okay, thank you.
There is no, for solar, there is in the town bylaws, there's no as of right siting that would apply to these projects.
Okay.
If you recall, as part of the Green Communities designation. The town did approve an as of right siting for solar at the old landfill. That I think was the only place where that was provided. So as a result, anybody who wants to build solar will have to go through the processes for any type of siting or approvals.
Through the planning board. Yep.
So this was an incredibly robust process. We received proposals from 9 bidders. They are all very financially secure, very well known in the industry. Of these 9, we want to recommend going forward with Ameresco, Palmer Capital, and Select. Palmer Capital is a developer of our existing solar energy array that has saved us, oh gosh, I think we're approaching $200,000 in the little bit more than 3 years that it's been in operation. So we feel very comfortable with Palmer Capital. They've been very creative with giving us lots of potential sites. Ameresco is very good at microgrids. They've done microgrids at schools. They've done solar at schools. They've done carports at schools. They're familiar with batteries. They are very large publicly traded company. And Select Energy gives us some optionality tied to one of the Massachusetts laws, which would allow us to join a municipal consortium and provide us with opportunity to develop some other sites, possibly around town, that could be very useful, including the water plant. So these are our recommended partners. These 9 bidders offered 16 different sites in Cohasset. You might recognize this image because this was our hope, and it totally succeeded. We received, of course, bids for the town sites that were approved at the 2020 town meeting. We also have obtained bids and information for public sites, such as we know about the MBTA station. That's not going to be finalized until Q1, but we did receive bids for Cohasset Town parking lot, if we want to put canopies there, Cohasset water plant for the roof, wastewater treatment plant for the roof, as well as the Cohasset library, parking libraries if we want. On the private sites, and this was identified by more than one bidder, but Palmer most certainly did a lot of creative thinking here. 5 sites in town have been identified. And in the case of Palmer Capital, a local business offered letter in support of the projects that could be sited on third-party sites. And if we're 100% off-taker of that energy, we would get all the benefits as if it were our own site. We would get slightly less savings because there's a lease payment that would go to that site, but it is a very interesting opportunity that we want to also examine. So mission accomplished. We received a lot of great price transparency, a lot of understanding about the different options, how we might proceed. And here's some, I didn't put the numbers in because it's obviously very competitive, commercially sensitive data, but here's just relatively speaking how the different sites compare. If we have something on our own site, we are going to get the highest benefit, all else equal. And if it's in front of the meter, which means there's no load, and we're getting an average price that's basically equal to when the sun is creating the energy, that is the best. That's what we're currently getting at the DPW site. We did get some bids for that site. We think that site may be difficult to pursue. Palmer Capital, who already has the solar energy array on that site, have looked at it. They did not submit a bid for that site. Some of the others did. Would love to do something at that site to expand the existing solar energy array. There are state rules that would be against it. We can't put a second site there. We'd have to expand the existing site. We just don't see that happening, unfortunately, because that is a very lucrative site. The school roofs, we would love to do something on the school roofs. Those are the second most lucrative, but I think it's very clear we can't. Every single one of the bidders said you need to replace the roofs first. And it's not going to work because by replacing them earlier than the state would allow, we lose 40 to 50% of the shared cost of replacing the roofs. So it becomes a very hefty economic hole to dig ourselves out of with savings. So the school roofs, although they offer some higher benefit, we don't think that's going to work either. And we've sort of been getting some of that messaging from the school committee. Parking canopies at the schools, interestingly enough, can play the exact same role as the school roofs. They can feed directly into the schools, provide the electricity directly to the school usage. Anything that's in excess of what the school needs will be put back into the grid, and National Grid buys it from us for a price. So the whole benefit here is, what's the price that we get from National Grid versus the price we're paying for that energy? Or what is the price that we can completely eliminate by self-supplying our own energy into the schools versus the power purchase agreement price? And in this case, the parking canopies, there's some nice benefit. It's a savings of about 25% of our total price to go with the parking canopies. And I'll show you some images of what that looks like and where they might be placed. So you can see where we're going with this. Our recommendation would be definitely, let's pursue the parking canopies. Other town sites are small. The ones that were approved at the meeting, not so great, but there were some other sites that came up, which is, do we want to put canopies in the town parking lot? Do we want to put them at the school library? The water plant roof could provide us some savings. And there's a lot of land over there. We'll talk about that site in particular, because that's an interesting site that we want to potentially pursue. And then there are third-party sites because of the lease payments. They're not as lucrative, but they could be better if we pursue a certain type of benefit. And so we're talking to Palmer about pursuing what's called a net metering credit arrangement, just like we currently have. There's only 1.7 megawatts left. We'd like to gobble those all up if we can. There's nobody in line to do that. So we're trying to go and grab those because they're very rich in sense. A lot of money thrown on the ground. We want to pick it up. And then there are some sites that just don't make sense, unfortunately. The price that came in would not result in savings. It would cost us to put the solar on. Some people might not think that is a bad thing, but our whole task from the town meeting was to go forward and try to find cost savings, which we have. So we don't feel the need to pursue uneconomic sites. And the school sites definitely are, so offer some of the most lucrative. Basically that and the water plant, because they're the biggest load in the town. The schools are roughly 75%, 60 to 75% of our load, not counting the enterprise funds, and the enterprise funds are the second largest. So if we can feed solar directly into those buildings, that is our best savings. So we looked at the potential savings we might be able to get under different configurations. At first, we looked at the school roofs. We don't think we can go there. The DPW site doesn't seem to be available, but we still get savings to the tune of about $75,000 if we were to pursue carports at the schools and fill up the rest with third-party sites. So what we are very focused on in our recommendation, just because of feasibility, is the carports at the school or the canopies. We'll show you pictures of that in a moment. And looking at the third-party sites in town. We do think that we could get better savings from the third-party sites. Like I said, if we pursue one type of incentive program versus another, but there's no guarantee we could get that. But we're not going to know until we move forward and try to do that. And that would be with Palmer Capital if we get your approval to proceed. As I said, the proposals offered way more than the town needs, way more than the town needs. We originally entered into this thinking we only needed 2 million kilowatt hours a year of solar energy. That did not include the enterprise funds. And the bids came in and some of the bidders said, hey, you actually need more than that because you have a water treatment plant that uses up a lot of electricity with all of its pumps and with the services that it does, as well as a sewage treatment plant. So they gave us a heads up on that. But there's way more. I mean, there's 5 to 10 times more energy in the bids that we received than the town's municipal load needs. And even though there's a bunch of money thrown on the ground by the federal and state government, there's a cap on how much we can pick up. They just don't want one municipality coming in and grabbing all the money. So we're capped at what our total electricity bill is. And that's still pretty sizable, to the tune of about $600,000 a year. So we do have opportunity for those savings. And there's also opportunities to figure out what to do with the rest of that solar. We've been talking about trying to get more resiliency in this town, and the Alternative Energy Committee might be able to help some of these developers get off-takers with other municipal entities that could use those credits and get the savings, or maybe even what's called a community solar. But as a result of all these bids, we are now looking at potential savings for the enterprise funds. Fortunately, one of the members, former members of the Alternative Energy Committee and current member on the evaluation team is Steve Girardi. Steve Girardi is also a water commissioner. So he's been very in tune, and he's also, his career is in energy. So he's been very in tune to what we've been doing. So we have an in with Steve, and Leonora has also indicated that they'd be very open to getting some of these savings. So yes, I'll pause here to see if there are any questions, or if you want, I only have 3 more slides on our recommended approach. Well, maybe a little bit more than 3, but are there any questions up to this point?
Nope, I think keep moving. Oh, Corey, sorry.
No, I was just to clarify. So kind of the big, low hanging fruit just weren't available. So, but the theory is, or the thesis here is, there's still a lot we can do. So even though we couldn't hit the home runs, we can still hit a whole lot of, really nice doubles and triples throughout town to keep the baseball analogy.
Great analogy.
Okay.
It's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And we can still get the tune of, like I said, 75,000 to 125,000 a year in savings, while having solar and potentially batteries, we'll talk about that, built on site. Especially at Deer Hill, we're intrigued by this opportunity because Deer Hill is where we house the emergency response center. So having that type of backup power in case the gas lines get cut or something happens could be very good from a resiliency and reliability point of view. But the best thing about it is we're paid to do it, because the savings, even with the battery plus the carports, are enough that we still get savings on our electricity bill by moving forward with that type of arrangement.
Yeah. Right, and I mean, even though we have a lot of experts involved in this, we're learning a lot more too about where we need to go to build this resiliency for the future. So that'll be other meetings upcoming. So let's get back to this and move you along.
Yep. So the target, we are targeting, you can either target your cost or you can target your kilowatt hours. If you're working behind the meter, meaning the electricity is going directly into the building, the best thing to do is target your kilowatt hours. It's not the end of the world if we overbuy. Say we buy a certain amount of these credits, basically, which is what it is. It's a financial credit. It does get the solar built, but it's basically a revenue stream for the developer. If we buy these credits and they come onto our bill, we can only put so much of that on our bill before National Grid says, look, we're not in the business of writing checks to our customers. So you can roll forward your credit, but at some point we could be, if we overbuy, we could be left holding a bunch of credits that we paid for that we can't do anything with. That actually is not such a big risk. In the technical appendices of this presentation is how we can mitigate risks. That is not such a big risk. First of all, we can size our solar appetite correctly. But more importantly, even if we overbought on these credits, we could sell them to another or allocate them to another municipality and say they get 2 cents of credit per kilowatt hour on their bill. We could have an intergovernmental agreement where they buy that off of us, we allocate it to them. We don't want to get into that business of trading credits. We just don't see the need to do that. So we're targeting 76.5% of our total energy usage with our proposal. And that proposal is the following. We already have the benefit of the existing landfill of 512 kilowatts DC. The school carports would add another 1,200 kilowatts DC. This is the column on the far right. And then we would like to pursue other potential public and private sites for another 1,500 kilowatts. And there's tons of that available. Like I said, they may not be as big on the savings as the school carports. They're definitely not going to be as nice on the savings as the existing landfill, but it is possible we can get close to that. And so that would be sort of that third part of our stool that we would want to pursue. So basically the existing landfill and school carports would more or less cover the town buildings, and the other public-private sites would fill in the rest and cover water and sewer. And another reason to target less is over time. This is a 20-year contract we're talking about. To be able to get this built over time, our energy efficiency could improve, appliances become more efficient, computers become more efficient, TVs become more efficient, you know, stuff that we're using electricity for, the heating becomes more efficient. And so as a result, we want to make sure we're not caught at a point where we're overbuying our credits. So again, that's why we're targeting what we're targeting.
May I ask one? So,
Yes.
I just want to learn a bit about the target and because you just said, you know, looking forward 20 years, you know, I think it's possible that in 20 years, our energy usage will go up. I mean, you know, we may on some town buildings move from, you know, gas to heat pumps and those still have a high load. And, you know, we just launched a school, building committee. So it's very possible that our energy needs will go up. How much have you accounted for that in this 76.5 kind of target?
We haven't. We have targeted 76.5% of our current usage.
Okay, thank you.
But again, you're right. Our usage could go up, in which case we might be very happy that we overbought, especially if the price goes up, that we're saving. We want to hedge our the physical as much as we can and try to make sure that we hedge the price risk. Because we do get upside, we do have a hedge in case, and just in parlance, if we have we've asked for a fixed PPA price. So we will have a fixed price to purchase this energy from the solar energy array for the next 20 years. And if you believe that our electricity costs can go down, then that could be a problem. But we generally feel like these are good enough prices. There's enough headroom for a price drop for 1 year, 2 years, so that even if these are underwater for a brief period of time over the term of the 20 years, we see these as providing savings. And if the electricity price goes up, we have a significant amount of savings. And this has happened at our existing landfill. So we have a huge amount of savings because the cost has actually gone up on the rate at which we're getting the credit. So we have a fixed PPA price. The credit is dependent upon the cost of energy. There's some natural hedges built in here. 76.5%. Again, we've done a lot of analysis of the risk. I think we're being very conservative here.
Okay.
But I think it's something to consider. If taking it to that next 5 or 10% gets us a better price, we would probably recommend that. But this right now is our target for moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
So the first thing, as you can tell from what we've already talked about, we want to maximize the parking canopies, or what's called carports, at the schools. I'm sure you've all seen them. They're in MBTA stations. They're at a bunch of other schools in Massachusetts. They're at parking lots all over the place. And these are some of the images that the bidders gave us about where they would place the parking canopies at the different schools. The Osgood School would be right in the teacher's parking lot. Deer Hill would be right out in front of the building, and the high school, middle school would be in the student parking lot right as you turn into the first turn into the high school. And again, we are talking to the school committee tomorrow, but they seemed open to the thought of the carports, especially with the electricity feeding directly into the schools. And the carports alone that we're talking about would basically service 60% of the school needs. If we added a battery, we'd be able to provide more. But that does come with a little bit of a cost. So here's an illustration. I found this online and I loved it because it looks like
Kind of.
Deer Hill. So it's not, but it sort of does look like Deer Hill. And so you can see what the canopies would look like in front of the Deer Hill School generally. And so this is what we're talking about. The technology has gotten very good, so it's very safe. You can see that they're angled. That means that the snow and the rain go into the sort of the ditch or the gutters, and then sort of go out off the side, and that prevents like big bunches of snow just coming down and harming someone.
And-
So
and
a lot of
Tanya,
safety.
yeah, sorry, just for clarification, the use of the parking canopies is at the discretion of the school committee. They would have to approve that. And then if they approve that use, then that's something that would go to the planning board. just so that
Yes,
to outline the kind of process that would take place. Right.
that's right. Right now, the select board doesn't have any real action item because we're talking about school sites and third-party sites, and then another town site that hasn't yet been approved by
Right.
the town for lease. So really what we're asking for is permission for the Alternative Energy Committee to continue pursuing this.
Mhm.
Because we are subject to your authorization.
Yep.
And so the carports can deliver directly into the school, and those provide some of the best savings that we've got. Call it a triple. But here's an example of some of the schools in Massachusetts that have already implemented carports. City of Newton, Roxbury Community College, Town of Ashland, Town of Wayland, Walnut Hill School for the Arts, Natick, Newton, Town of Carlisle. So, most certainly Lydia St. Ange is on our evaluation team. She has connections in some of these schools and has reached out and feels very comfortable about the safety. But again, this is a school committee decision and we'll be presenting to them tomorrow. But we do get the benefit. We're not the first mover on this. The technology has been improved and it has been placed at schools in other areas, including Massachusetts. The other thing we got from the bidders for schools, and like I said, this is, in our mind, this is important for Deer Hill especially, but the Deer Hill Osgood campus creates a beautiful little microgrid where you could have two systems set up separately of 250 kilowatts AC. And then in addition to that, a battery. The battery would decrease some of your savings. You'd go from around 70,000 in savings to maybe $45,000 in savings a year. But you would get the benefit of having the battery, and the battery combined with the solar could provide energy to the school at more than a majority of the energy load, and in some cases more than the energy load, depending on the season, depending on the hour, the time of day, during an outage. And so this is attractive in our minds because not only does it provide that resiliency to the schools, but it also would supply energy to the emergency response center that's located at Deer Hill. So there are key questions we're going to ask the school committee tomorrow. Are they comfortable with batteries? Do they want the ability to operate off the grid? Do they want to use gas units that they currently have as a backup to the backup? But basically a battery microgrid control could be procured at a later date. We don't have to make a decision now. There's no need to make a decision. We can go down that path when it's time. And there's also some money through FEMA that we're looking at pursuing for batteries, where the town would buy the battery and 75% of the cost would be paid for by the federal government. And that may be the more economic way to proceed as opposed to having the developer move forward with it. But this is an option. Again, this is a school committee decision, but it's something that as the town uses Deer Hill for emergency response and warming stations, something that you should be aware of. There's also savings. So that's the school carports. The entity that we want to go with is Ameresco. And then, as I said, that list came from them. They've done a lot of schools, a lot of microgrid sites at the schools, a lot of solar at the schools, a large publicly traded company, very established in the industry. And in Massachusetts. Now, that would meet a lot of what remains on the town municipal load outside of the enterprise funds. But we got so many great bids and opportunities for savings. We would like to also pursue at least being able to share with the Water Commission what potential savings would be if they wanted to pursue some of the solar. So basically the existing landfill meets the town buildings, except for the setting aside the schools. The school carports would more or less combine with the existing landfill, meet the school load. At the water plant, there's some interesting opportunities we're going to share with you in other sites that could bring the savings to the enterprise funds. They don't have to be on site to do that, but those tend to be the most lucrative. And then there's, the equivalent of our streetlight load would be part of our safety margin. So this is generally how we're thinking about the load. We are capped, as I said, there's only so much money we can pick up off the ground and put into our pockets. We're capped at our electricity bill, which is about $600,000 today. And as that goes up, we would have more headroom. But the value of these credits also go up with the electricity price. So the quantity is one thing, the price is another thing. It's sort of a built-in hedge for that. But that is how we'd want to pursue this. So the water plant site has not been it's not been approved by town meeting for lease. That doesn't necessarily prevent us from pursuing an exploration to understand how we might use that site. So one of the bidders did identify how much we could get by putting solar on the roof of the water department building. And the interesting thing about the water department building is you see that sort of cut that is to the left. One of the two major feeder lines into Cohasset is right there next to the water plant. That is also the feeder line that runs through Wampatuck Park. It is also the feeder line that has the second worst resiliency rating on National Grid's Massachusetts system, and it feeds us. And that is one of the major reasons why we have outages. This site could be part of a resiliency reliability site because we could just tap in right here to service the town. It's also geographically very close to one of the other lines that feeds the town. So this is an interesting site just because its geographical location and the fact that it solves one of our major problems on reliability, which is the feeder line that gets hit by a tree in Wampatuck Park almost every time the wind blows. And that's an exaggeration, but only slightly. So the water plant is interesting to us. There's an 80 kilowatt rooftop that a bidder has come in with. It's actually positive savings for us, even though it's fairly small. We would like to explore, and we need your permission for this, not the school committees, but yours, to explore with this bidder, which is Select Energy, whether or not we could look at parking canopies on the site, whether or not we could put solar over the sludge pits, whether it's floating or canopies, whether there might be something on a ground mount. There used to be a landfill there. I don't know, it's like 9 acres or something, or maybe an energy storage solution. And again, this would be a great place to put the generation that we would need to help power the town. It'd be a great place to put a fossil fuel generator, but it would be a great place potentially to put solar. So we would like to explore that with Select Energy. Select Energy, under Mass General Law 164, we could pursue this site and develop it for solar with Select Energy going through power options without doing a 30B procurement. And that saves us a lot of time. Whether or not you're comfortable with that or want to take it to town for approval is up to you. But legally, we could develop this site by going with Select Energy and working through power options under Mass General Law 164. We just want you to know that's an option. We would like to explore that site, and we'd like your permission to do that.
So just to understand exactly what explore means and develop means and where the decision-making points are for the town. You know, maybe I just need to stop and let you address that. But, you know, I guess I just want to know, like, you can pretty much advance a project and then you just have to get the permission ultimately of town meeting for the usage of the site. Is that right?
No, you actually, if you go under Mass General Law 164, you do not need town meeting approval to lease this site for solar.
Okay.
It is a, this was, it was like a 30-year-old piece of legislation that was established maybe back in the 80s, and it was dusted off for the activity that's happening now. But where would the pause be? Well, we'd have to sign a contract with them. We could issue a letter of intent saying we want to move forward with the rooftop because we know that gives us savings, and a letter of intent to move forward with looking at other opportunities. And if it makes enough sense, and that's both SEN, SE, and CENTS, if it makes enough savings, enough sense in both senses of the word, then we would ask the Water Commission, the town, whoever manages that land, to give us approval to lease the land for purposes of pursuing solar array. We could do that through Mass General Law 164 without going to town meeting. If you don't feel comfortable with that, we could still move forward with Select Energy and go to town meeting. So that is a backstop that you can decide to put in or not put in. You don't have to legally put it in, but it's available to you, obviously, as a select board. And then the other is the planning, board dealing with siting and whether or not, I think all of the canopies are going to have to be reviewed because they're 15 feet high. And that is one of the limits that is in our bylaws. So there's different points, as with any municipal decision, that would have to move forward. There's also an interconnection agreement. National Grid may say you can't connect here. It's full, you can't do it. It's not good for us. Frankly, if we connected here and pursued some of the levels, our lowest load for the entire community is 1.5 kilowatts. We're talking, or 1.5 megawatts. We are talking about having more than that in town. We could have energy flowing back towards the grid across this line. So the interconnection is an important physical piece of it, and the interconnection might be too expensive, in which case we don't do it. So there's a lot of financial points where we can stop. There's a lot of municipal points where we can stop, and then there are some legal points where we could stop.
If I could suggest, I mean, and we were briefed a couple weeks ago, so this isn't fully new, but I would be hesitant a little bit to give a full green light without having it, on another agenda after we've had a chance to kind of sift through this, because we didn't know what the recommendations were going to be a few weeks ago. But, theoretically, I think, from the select board point of view, charging an alternative energy committee with tasks, I think this is exactly what we should be doing. We should be exploring every option to, save money, use alternative energy sources, build resiliency, et cetera, et cetera. So theoretically, I'm 100% on board. The question is, if we're going to trigger any kind of official decision-making and things actually getting staked into the ground, I would rather have it be at a meeting where we come prepared to make that decision. And I personally don't think that that's tonight, but I don't want to also drag our feet on anything either. Any other comments from my colleagues?
I've got something. I don't know if you can see me or not, but yeah.
Corey, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, no. So for the water plant, do you have the number of how much power does the water plant use? You said it was quite a bit. So I'm just wondering if, putting an 80 kilowatt rooftop system would actually, not even need to do an interconnect because it's already using more than that.
Yeah, 80 kilowatts is small.
Right, exactly. So that it wouldn't even cover what the water department requires. So I'm thinking about this in terms of, am I comfortable, doing this at the board level versus town level? Well, if I conceptualize this as, hey, we're improving infrastructure at the water department for the purposes of saving the town money on their water bills, which are exorbitant. I've got no problem with that at all. And I don't think that the town would either. So as looking at this, I think for me, speed is a priority for this. So I think Diane's idea of putting this on an agenda so we can have it clearly marked, clearly voted on, and just give you a firm green light is a great way to go.
Yeah, and look, we all live in this town, and we know one of our key words of one of our meetings was the riparian border, right? We would not.
Right.
Well, I mean, the parking lot, if it has canopies, so be it. The rooftops, they're really not going to be seen. But if there was anything that required even the sludge, if there's anything that is going to create a visual issue for the town, we would minimize that as part of the design.
Paul had his hand up.
So a couple things. Looking at the map there, so the feeder line cuts basically right behind the water department, right? So could you potentially talk to National Grid as a connection and then make a microgrid using that cable and using that line, if you could just generate enough power for the town? Is that one option?
So that is, in theory, a great idea, and that is what our microgrid subcommittee is looking at how do we proceed with doing something like that? We could, I'll be honest, we could put a 10 megawatt fossil fuel gas fired generator right here at this site, tapped into this line. And in theory, whenever a tree pulls a line down upstream,
Yep.
just
Turn it on.
do a switch.
Yep.
So it doesn't backflow, turn it on and let it feed the town's usage. And most of the time, except in the summer when everybody has air conditioning on, that would work. The problem is National Grid has monopoly rights over the distribution service territory. And we would not be able to string our own lines and cross a public right of way.
Right.
And unless they agreed to let us use their wires, we couldn't supply the town. So we are in a friendly conversation with them about what we're trying to do and what our concerns are. We are at the end of the line. We have a compelling story to get grant money. My goal would be to put all of the assets we can, solar energy and battery storage assets, in the town, so that when we get to that point where National Grid has figured out what their business model is with respect to microgrids, and they will have to, because California is already dealing with it and Massachusetts is going to be next, then we're ready to go.
Got it.
The other option, which we're also looking at, and now we're off the solar, but this fits into it, is even if we became our own electric light company, we would have to purchase all the lines from National Grid at replacement cost, even though they're fully depreciated and basically have to be upgraded. We would have to pay full replacement cost under the law. And if we were to do that, we would still need to have generation in town because a lot of the problems are upstream.
Yep.
So we have a whole microgrid conceptual framework that we're using. We got $150,000, as you know, to do some study grants that's underway at the police fire department, Harborview, and the DPW station. So this is part of it, but this site is a beautiful site. We would prefer to go forward with solar because gas is a potential resiliency problem too, right? Gas lines are pretty reliable, but if it's a major disaster, they might not be. And wouldn't it be great if we had solar and batteries and storage to fire up the town?
Carrie had her.
Also up at Deer Hill, that could be also a microgrid in itself, much more easily than any other location.
Yeah,
so if you did the
microgrids.
microgrid and then you adapted, battery storage, and you up the battery storage as you needed more, you could potentially, almost like Lego, add an additional battery pack as needed, and you could supply the schools and then the warming stations or an emergency power situation, right?
And not only that, but anybody who lives on Sawyer Street is so lucky because we could just shut off on either side of Sawyer Street, and any excess produced by the school could help to feed those homes.
Got it.
If we had access to National Grid's lines.
I want to keep us moving only because we do have a lawyer who's in our midst that we need to get on our next agenda item. But Carrie, you had your hand up.
Yeah, my question was somewhat related to Paul's. Thank you, Tanya. You and this committee are always just so impressive. But my concern is just how we can kind of use this as leverage when it comes to talking about the bigger issues, like possibly, staying in a friendly relationship with National Grid and or moving to be our own utility in terms of power and electric. So I really love what we're doing with solar, but I'm more trying to conceptualize how we can use these things to eventually go after these bigger goals and these bigger issues we have.
Yeah, I mean, look, let me tell you, first of all, our goal, and this is my personal goal, is to get as much of the generation and storage assets paid for by somebody else. Okay.
Goal.
So let's do that first. Then they're sitting there. Once we have all the assets to energize the entire town, or we don't even need enough to energize the entire town because a lot of people already have backup generation, we could create some type of incentive program. Then we go to the DPU and say, look, this is silly. We've had 7 outages this year so far. We've got enough in town to be able to supply us, and we have to turn it off like we do with the landfill every time there's an outage. So I think the leverage is, first of all, letting somebody else pay for us to get these assets in town and as much as possible. And then we have the foundation of either buying the lines from National Grid or going to the DPU asking for a microgrid tariff that would allow, or some type of rules that would allow us to operate or pay for somebody else to outsource and operate the system when the outage occurs.
Great. Okay, any other questions, comments? Lydia, thank you for joining us. I don't want to put you on the spot, but okay, Tanya, what can we do for you tonight?
Yep. So this is last. I've only got 2 more. So the other sites, the third-party sites, and there's some town parking options. Palmer Capital has been very creative. We'd like to pursue with them as backup by diversifying what we're pursuing. We could get some very good savings from some of these sites as well. And so we would ask for your permission to proceed with a contract. Well, you don't need to approve the contract with Amoresco because that's a school committee decision. But we'd like your blessing. I guess that's what we would like for the school carports, so that when we go tomorrow to the school committee, we can say, yeah, select board is up for it if you're up for it. We'd like to get a permission to pursue a letter of intent with Select to move forward with the rooftops solar at the water plant and explore what else we can do with that site as well as other town sites. And then Palmer Capital, a letter of intent to move forward with potentially some of the sites under what would be the more lucrative net metering arrangement. So this is where we are. We want to save the town money, and this is our request. You might not be comfortable yet with a contract with Select Energy. Frankly, we need to get more details on that before we go forward with a contract. We don't know what we would want to explore. Same thing with Palmer Capital. We know how they bid. It's the same price at all the sites, but we want to pursue a net metering credit for the town. To do that, we need to have a contract that would allow us to pursue that, and we can put all sorts of caveats in it, but it allows us to get in the queue for the interconnection agreement, and that would then allow us to potentially grab those 1.7 megawatts of lucrative incentives.
So, any comments from the board? I do think that I would be hesitant to vote on the letter of intent and the contract with Select Energy until a little more details fleshed out, but I do think it's something we can put on a soon agenda, and we might even want to amongst ourselves consider making a formal liaison appointment to alternative energy so that one of us is at least keeping up with the fast speed and making sure that we have the information we need to make decisions at various trigger points. Does that make sense to my colleagues? And then with respect to the school parking canopies, again, it's a school committee decision because they manage that property. I do think there's aesthetic questions that will probably come up from the community, and I'm sure those will be asked and probably rightfully addressed later in the planning board process should the school committee give you the green light. So that's just my kind of point of view. Any other select board comments? Jack?
Yeah, a lot of information kind of thrown at us, asking for conclusion. I haven't had time to digest what you're doing. I'm certainly not going to tell the school committee that I'm recommending that they put a solar array on part of their property and their decision. Some of the things are very interesting. But there's an awful lot of information, and I don't think you can kind of throw it at us and then ask us to start voting and approving things that we don't yet thoroughly understand. And I also think that we ought to make sure that the community at a large has better access to all this information. It's not saying you haven't done a very good and comprehensive job, because of course you have. But again, a lot of information, little too early to digest it all.
And I think that just reinforces putting it on a soon agenda. And I know Tanya has a series of press releases that she's planning to keep the community engaged in all of this, as opposed to waiting till they come to come to a meeting, because a lot of people don't show up and hear what's going on. But I think the communication is key, and I know Tanya is 100% on that. All right, any other comments from the board? Corey?
Just briefly, I love the work that your committee does, Tanya, and I love the analytical framework you apply to everything. I mean, you break stuff down and you find all the different things, and that's awesome. And I think when it comes to the liaison position, I think we may have to have a shared custody here, because I know other people are really excited about what you guys do. So keep going. You guys just rock.
Thank you.
It's an
So-
arm wrestle. Yeah.
Then,
ahead.
most certainly we as a committee need your permission to move forward in some way to pursue this, right? This is, I'm not, you gave us the RFP process. We're
Right.
now at the negotiation
And this is
process.
separate from that, right? So I think, Tanya, I think it probably is best that, again, the sentiment is here, but I think to Jack's point, we owe it to all of us just to kind of absorb this information. And I promise we can get it on, a really soon agenda to just say, yes, let's start these conversations. I'd love to hear from the water commissioners too, given the fact that that's one big piece of this. Third-party sites are a whole different thing, which, I have no problem with that. But again, I think it's just something that if we can digest and give you a green light at another meeting, I think that would make more sense. Chris, you just tuned in. Do you have anything to add just in terms of the procurement expectations? We're good.
I've been watching and monitoring the entire time.
Oh, I know. I just didn't know if you
I'm always tuned into Tanya. So, no, I think there's been a lot of work done, and I think everyone just needs to absorb it a little bit. I think, I'll go tomorrow to the school committee. We'll see where that goes. And I think that'll help plug in some next steps. And again, I'll circle back with the water commission too, just to see where they are. And it sounds like they're favorable. And, I think this process, I think, ended at a different place than you thought it was going to, but that's okay, right? I mean, it ended up in a better place, I guess. So. Right.
And I'm sincere. I don't want to drag this. We have a lot going on in the next couple of weeks, but we'll try to get this, give you some next steps as soon as we possibly can. Okay.
Yeah,
We
that's
good?
great. But we do have permission to, like, for example, talk to Select about what would something at the water plant look like.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's part of
Yeah.
your
So we can
natural
keep
course
exploring
of business.
and come back
Right.
with more details.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the commitments that I'm reluctant to just green light, if you're asking us to green light something, it's signing a contract, even though you can't, that kind of thing. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think this, because it's part of the RFP process was all these ideas and they've gone this way. So let's all get that way with you. Make
Mhm.
sense?
No problem. And again, I just everybody knows there's incentives that ratchet down before the end of the year. So sooner is like.
Yep.
Soon.
I got it.
And we're working with Michelle Leary, who's been amazing. The committee's been amazing. Chris has been amazing. And this really is, I think, sort of more a town manager evaluation committee, sort of hands off, and provides an advisory role at this point on how to move forward.
Yep. Terrific. Thank you so much for your hard work. Michelle, you as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Good
Okay,
night.
bye.
Good luck tomorrow at the school committee.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Lydia, for joining in.
You do. I was going to say you had a hand raised, but
I did. I'm sorry.
no, I think it went down.
Is it too
Our
late?
holiday hostess had a hand up in the audience.
Oh, in the audience?
I saw that hand, but I thought it went down and then I didn't know. who it
So
was.
I believe that's somebody from our capital budget committee. If anybody is in the audience and would like to ask a question, you please type it into the chat with your name and address. I'm going to move on just because we're running behind. And I want to be mindful of the sewer representatives, including Town Council Rod Hoffman, on this discussion about grinder pumps, because they've been waiting patiently. I know Wayne was here as early as I was for the meeting. Wayne, you're on mute. I don't think I can unmute you. So who's gonna kind of set the stage of what this action item is?
So you have Wade Sawchuck from the Sewer Commission and Ron Hoffman from Town Council's office, who has been serving as the assigned counsel for Paul Durensis for this item. This actually goes back 9 years ago, believe it or not, when town meeting approved or gave the Board of Selectmen the approval, the then Board of Selectmen to approval to release easements upon the recommendation of the Sewer Commission. Well, 9 years later, they're here to ask for that permission. And I don't know, is it going to be Rod or Wayne who's going to start the conversation?
It'll be Wayne that starts.
Hi, Wayne. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having us. So 9 years ago, this was passed through town meeting to give the selectmen the right to deal with the easements in the North Cohasset sewer district. And since that time, we've gone ahead and replaced 350 grinder pumps with the idea that we wanted to get out of the grinder pump business and the maintenance of them. And as the rest of the town owns its own grinder pumps, that we wanted this to be the case in North Cohasset. And what happened was, in order to do the funding 21 years ago, we needed to put in easements so that actually the town had the right to own and maintain pumps on private property. And it all went through the funding in that fashion. So for the last 21 years, we weren't able to do anything to give the grinder pumps back to the owners until this time. And of course, the owners wouldn't want us to give them the old pumps that were now 10 years old. So we gave them all new pumps over the last 2 years, 2.5 years. So the time is up for us to take away the easement that we took and give them the grinder pump and save them $500 a year for the maintenance of the grinder pumps that they're currently paying. That charge to them will go away. So they're going to save $500 and they will have use of their property that we took as easements to do anything they want with. So there are 350 altogether. However, 50 are also easements that are on private ways that we will keep, because if we eliminate those, someone who may not be able to, someone's property may be given up, so someone doesn't want to give an easement for their neighbor to have a sewer pipe back in their property again. Not to make this complicated.
But it will get complicated.
Rod
So
is on
good
the
for you to
phone,
think
so
of-
he's going to correct anything that I say wrong. So what we have proposed to do is, and this is a little bit complicated because 350 easements have to be gone through and go to the registry of deeds and basically do a quick title search to find out, sort of go through in the title to locate the easement and then go ahead. We've prepared releases of easements that the sewer users need to sign, return to us. We will notarize our signatures and then we will record the elimination of the easement in their title so that their property actually becomes a little bit more valuable because the town doesn't have an easement on it anymore. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's just the idea of we just want you to just sort of know what's going on and then have an understanding that if questions and calls and stuff come in from anybody at all, that you'll direct them back to the sewer department so that we can explain it a little bit better. We're planning on sending out a postcard to everybody to tell them they're going to get a registered letter, and so that they don't not go to the post office to get the registered letter. And in the registered letter will be instructions on everything that we want to do and their signature to allow us to remove the easement. Now, if I'll pause for a second and say, does anybody have any questions so far?
I just have a couple of questions and maybe when Rod talks, he can kind of morph this in. One is the cost of this. I imagine it's relatively expensive to have all this work done with the deeds. And I imagine that's coming through the sewer commission through these fees or A, and then B, could you describe sort of geographically where these pumps are? You said North Cohasset, but like from what street to what street?
Almost from Forest Avenue and Jerusalem Road, right on through to North Cohasset, up Hull Street and all of the Windy Hill Road, all of those areas in that area,
Okay.
everything, Streets Pond and stuff. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, so it's that whole section that, this was all built out in 1999 and 2000. And then all of this sewer usage was set up to go to Hull. And
Yeah,
most of it
that's
now
what I'm
is coming back to our plant. But it was interesting the way they did it. And this was done so that the borrowing of the money would include the cost of putting in the pump and the work going to the person's house. And since that time, like for the Little Harbor District, the 475 houses there, the bonding only brought the sewer down the street and then the sewer connections were put just for the property line at the street. And the homeowner was responsible for hiring a contractor and going from their house, putting in a pump, and then bringing it down their property and connecting onto the street. In North Cohasset, it was all the way to your house and putting in the pump and all that, which was financed over 20 years, of which the homeowner had 20 years to pay for this work. But it ran into a lot of problems for us over the last 20 years. So when Little Harbor came in, we changed it, which put a greater burden on the homeowner of Little Harbor than of North Cohasset. And the North Cohasset deal was they would pay 50% of the cost, the town would pay 50%. So having this funding meant that the town was actually we were actually paying more than what we did for other people.
Yeah, exactly. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll ask Rod to fill in any blanks.
You did ask about the cost. The recording, the cost to record in the registry each of these releases is $106. And so the commission decided to ask the homeowner to countersign the release, send us a check for $106. We will take care of the recording. And when that recording is done, then that quarterly fee of $125 will be ended as of the next billing cycle. So it's one more check, but that will take care of it. Everything will be on the record, and the ownership will be clean, and the town of Cohasset will be out of the grinder pump business.
And am I correct? So do we, if somebody had a problem in North Cohasset, these 350 homes we're talking about, if they had a problem with their grinder pump, do we service, we have the easement and we service them currently? Got it.
That was correct.
Yes.
And this will be up to them now if they have an issue.
That's right. It's, we did not include the easement release document, but it is that clear. So the town is releasing the easement, the fee will be terminated, and you will have full ownership and responsibility for the grinder pump and the connection to the sewer system.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from select board members? Okay, so remind me, just in terms, do we have a motion in our packets for this? Or in an email, or what do we need to, what action do you need from us?
There is a memo.
Yep, I see it.
And at the end, under the second page, there's a series of very precisely crafted votes.
I would expect nothing less.
That's right. Right.
Does one of the select board members have that in front of them that they could read that, or Chris, do you want to?
So is that the request to the select board?
Yeah, so there's a number of
commission
whereases.
There's like 4 whereases and then now therefore.
Yeah. So we
Okay,
have to read
We're gonna
that
read
in
the whole
the
thing?
form of a motion.
I have it.
I mean, is it a motion or is it a,
I do think it needs to be a motion.
motion? Okay.
Is that where Article 9 below that move that the Board of Selectmen be authorized pursuant? Is that what we need to? Yes, I have that.
No, I think it's a request to the select board.
Oh, no, I have another one.
No, I think it's a whereas. Is it a proclamation or is it a?
I put it up on the screen here, so if somebody wants to, this is the correct thing, Rod, right?
Correct.
Right. Does this need to be a motion or does it need to be a, what's it, a proclamation?
So the proclamation is at the end, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We end up with a series of votes, which are the motions.
So I don't need to read the proclamation. I need to read the votes?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay. Let me get to that then.
Paul, I hate to belabor this, but I do think we should read the whereases.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
Read the whereas as the context, and then where
Yeah,
it goes
and
to
then the vote.
voted, then it should be a moved. And then at the
Okay.
end, I'll ask for a second.
Okay.
So I'll start from the commission recommends.
Yes.
Yes.
So, all right, it's gonna take a while, but I'll read quickly. I'd like to make a motion with respect to the grinder pumps in North Cohasset. Request to the select board. The commission recommends that the select board adopt the following vote with respect to the closeout of the grinder pump program. Whereas the Cohasset Board of Sewer Commission undertook a project in North Cohasset and Central Cohasset areas to abate water pollution concerns that included the installation of grinder pumps and pressure sewers in individual residences to permit connection of these residences to the town's sewer system project. Whereas it was explained to the affected residents at an open meeting followed by a letter from the commission dated October 22, 2010, that the town would maintain and replace grinder pumps in each residence until the completion of the project in 2020, provided that each resident paid a quarterly fee of $125 to cover the cost of maintenance and replacement of the grinder pumps. Whereas by the vote of Cohasset Annual Town Meeting on April 30, 2011, the select board was authorized to release easements granted to the town in connection with the project upon the recommendation of the commission. And whereas the commission has determined that the project will be completed on or about December 30, 2020, and recommends that the select board release such easements related to the project that are no longer necessary for the operation of the town's sewer system, and further convey to each resident their respective grinder pump and related equipment. Now, therefore, it is hereby voted upon completion of the project, each easement as has been granted to the town in connection therewith and are no longer required for the proper operation of the town's sewer system shall be released and conveyed to the current owner of the property, subject to the easement. Voted upon completion of the project, grinder pumps, related equipment, and service piping installed as part of the project are deemed to be surplus to the needs of the town and shall be transferred to the current owner of the property where installed. And voted that the commission be and is hereby authorized to take any and all action reasonably necessary to accomplish the foregoing inclusion without limitation, the execution and recording of such releases of easements, bill of sales and conveyance, and other documents and actions necessary to effect the closeout of the project.
Thank
That's
you.
my
Is-
motion.
That's great. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions before we go to a vote? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, aye.
All right, congratulations. Thank you.
Another government program rolled back. Hooray, hooray, hooray.
Exactly. Yeah,
Thank
thank you,
Well done,
Wayne,
Paul.
and thank
Well
you,
done.
Ron.
We flushed that one out, huh?
Now the
Waiting
work
for the pun.
Not so well done, Paul.
Yeah. Rod, is this typically something that goes without a hitch? I mean, you don't expect any pushback from residents?
Oh, I never think that.
Oh, well, right.
No, it's a change of the situation. And, some residents have been asking, when is this fee going to stop?
Right.
But others, aren't
That's the
used
good
to,
news.
aren't used to this and we'll work with them.
Yep. Great. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Okay. Boy, we're an hour over. My apologies. Chris, the next item on the agenda is just a review for the meeting on the 10th.
So basically, a conversation has been had about having kind of an open meeting. It would be a Board of Selectmen meeting that you wouldn't be taking action. You'd be hearing reports. You'd be talking about some of the key topics you've all been working on as a public session. It could be done here on Zoom, obviously. And we can most certainly stream it on Facebook, which would be great. There's at least 4 things. Well, you're working on lots of things, but some of the topics that we kicked around: Elm Street question, the zoning update questions, affordable housing. Those are all example. The Economic Development Task Force. You wouldn't want to put too many. You probably want to take about 90 minutes, maybe no more than 2 hours, and go through it and have multiple folks in the room, and then you can have structured conversations, and it'll be an opportunity for everyone to give updates. And you might want to, if this is successful, you might want to consider doing this kind of project updates quarterly. Effectively, the board will be having a work session, inviting the public in and inviting the committee members, and you have a structured conversation, and you can answer questions. So I think it would be a way to connect more to the community and also allow you not to chunk up a meeting because you have a lot of stuff to do regularly, right? And just really be able to just have conversations at an off night. The 10th is available. It is the first night of Hanukkah, so I don't know if this will be a present for folks, but it'll be it is the first night. But it is available, I think Tracy had already checked with everyone's schedules, so everyone was available, we do it on Zoom.
And Chris, just remind me, some of the things we were thinking about is obviously, as you mentioned, some of the master plan implementation committee working groups. And were we going to have an update on town hall at that meeting?
Yes, I think you could. I know that they're getting close on a couple things. I think it would still be great to give. I talked to Phil and Wayne on the street a week or 2 ago, and I know that they may not have all their information until January. That said, I think it would be still a good time to talk about where they are. So I think town hall would definitely be something.
I think sort of these big pods of projects that have some infrastructure connection, Elm Street, what's going on with zoning, town hall. I know there's a few others that I would say maybe if you have 4, you do about 15-20 minutes each, and that gets you 90 minutes plus with conversation. Maybe do affordable housing, maybe do economic development, if that's the economic task force, if there's updates you want to talk about with that, whatever the board's interest is. Okay, yeah. And we can talk about this in the context as we develop the agenda, but obviously alternative energy is a big topic. There is some immediacy to advancing that conversation. It's pretty meaty. So I don't know if that makes sense in the context of some of these others, but ultimately what we want to do is when town hall gets to a point where they're having discussions about some actual next steps, we do want to make sure they're considering that, I don't know, something's going on Elm Street, or that we're looking for solar panels on new roofs, or, so we want to try to keep everybody as connected in a, and not with outside of the formal context of the business of a select board meeting, and so that we're all kind of on the same page with these big projects. So we'll try to curate that meeting on the 10th as best we can, and then use it as a model going forward, I think is the intent. So, okay, any questions? So if anybody has anything very specific within that bucket that you think we need to hammer out on the 10th for sure, just send me a note about that. Okay.
I tentatively have 4 then. Town Hall, Elm Street, the zone conversation, if that's ready, and the energy question. Those 4, I guess, would jump out. So
Okay, you put energy in there then.
I put energy as yeah, because the affordable housing, a year on that. Yeah, so if that's that, I mean, you got to continue that conversation anyway.
Yeah, we can do an update. By then we might have the RFP for
Right.
for 808. And we could do that at the 15th as just an update.
And the question with zoning more is definitely, what's heading the town meeting, right? What kind of focus needs to be had at that point. So.
And thanks for bringing that up. That's kind of how we started talking about this is, town meeting planning is going to start rapidly right after the holiday. So we want to make sure that there's no surprises early on, or that, ideas are at least known by us. Okay. All right. Any other comments? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to town manager update. Okay, Chris.
Okay, 2 things. First, we did the virtual employee recognition last week. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it. It was an episode of Quest, part of an episode of Quest. Thank you, Diane, for sharing the little bios. There were 25 employees recognized for their service to the community from 10 years up to more than 30. Yeah. We'll talk about it a little bit more at the next meeting. Bob's retiring at the end of the year. I know we introduced John at the beginning, and I'll just close the meeting by saying, he's not gone, but I want to thank Bob for his service to the town, more than 30 years. And he's not entirely riding off to the sunset. He's going to be doing a lot of transitioning with John this month. And he's going to be staying on for us and others. He's the sealer of weights and measures. So next time you go to the gas pump, take a look, you'll see his name. He's on every gas pump and scale, I think, between Hingham and Duxbury, I think. So he's going to keep his weights and measures in his car, and I think he'll still be doing that work for us and others. But I want to thank Bob for all his service to the town. And we also, again, recognized there were 24 other employees that were recognized. So I want to thank them for their service to the community. We've been fortunate to have a good workforce. We try to treat everybody well and develop people. And the fact that we continue to be able to recognize people for lengths of service here, I think is a good thing. So
that's great. And
we also got some excellent news that just came in literally on Thanksgiving Eve that Lauren Lind shared with me. The Cohasset Municipal Harbor Plan has been approved by the state. So it is an official document. So congratulations to everybody who pulled together and made that plan a reality. Now the Harbor Committee is going to be focusing on getting those priority lists in a ranking. There are 3 major things already in motion. Elm Street Corridor was one of their big issues, linking the harbor to the village. That's already a big working group because that was a master plan priority as well. And we have these 2 big grants for the town dock and the lists and the proposed system, and for the Park Avenue boat ramps. Both of those projects are also ongoing. So there's already some real positive momentum that's come out of the harbor plan. So I just want to thank everybody for that and announce that it's officially approved. So congratulations.
That's correct. You stole my thunder. Is that it, Chris?
That's all I got.
Okay, select board comment. Jack.
I looked at my watch. I have nothing to say, but I could say motion to adjourn.
We'll go real fast. We get the hint. Corey.
Made enough motions for today. I also yield my time to the rest of the board.
Paul.
It really just be very careful in the upcoming season. Steer clear of groups, gatherings. I hate to be the Grinch for Christmas, but I think a Zoom Christmas is going to be on the table. Numbers are going up in South Shore in the hospital as well as in the area, so just be real careful. That's it.
Great, Carrie.
Please go to savethegreenbush.com and keep adding your testimonials about why the boat and the commuter rail matter to you. We're still in this fight and we still need people to speak up about it.
Thank you. Chris, you stole my thunder on the harbor plan, and also just on behalf of the board, thanks to all the employees and for their service. And that was really special to have 25 employees at meeting certain markers in their career. So we appreciate that.
One other kind of quirky historical thing I'll let you know too. I'm sorry, the clock on the comment in the first parish, the town bought that in the 1850s. So that's actually owned by the town.
Right.
This week, we're going to have a clock company come in and take a look at it because it's not working at the moment. So they're going to come in, an assessment, and hopefully get the thing running again. So it's quite a historic structure. So there'll be more to come on that. But I just want to let you know that the clock is on the agenda. So.
And really quickly, we used to have a keeper of the clock as an appointee of the select board. Do we still have that?
Unfortunately, the keeper of the clock has gone to he's winding clocks.
The sky.
And his son, who continued the work, does other things now. Is not interested.
Okay.
It was incredibly difficult. I got to thank Tracy. Tracy Justine and I had a good laugh as we tried to find someone, and no one had any idea what to do. And we finally found a company in Freeport. We went to a clockwork in Brookline. They referred us to somebody else. So there's a couple coming down from Freeport, Maine. It's a very specialized world. These big, giant historic clocks, and they're all over New England, by the way. You see them. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping people pass their knowledge on, or no one's going to know how to fix these things.
Yeah.
But at least Brian Joyce and Carl Sestito are going to be joining the visit to the clock tower next Tuesday. So hopefully they will pick up some knowledge and figure out how to keep the thing running in the future. The good thing is it was built really well, and there was some it's made by the prior clock keeper 15 or 20 years ago that semi-mechanized it. But I guess every once in a while something happens. So
right. That's neat. And really quickly, the Safe Harbor Youth Ambassadors that we recognized picked up, or they have, Nicole, I believe, has picked up their certificates and a swag bag that I'll send you details in an email. But it's really nice that the Cohasset 250 committee put together for them. And then Jack will be in touch about a plaque, because I think it's a great idea to memorialize them, annually for their work. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I got that right.
Second, that's Jack's favorite motion.
I know, it's everybody's, let's face it. Roll call vote beginning with Jack.
Zach Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Paul Schubert, aye.
Harry Thompson, aye.
All right, good night, everybody. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
All right, everyone.